Welcome back, guys, to the third rail. This is John Teeter coming at you. Hopefully this time everything works right. We got Destiny up talking to his friends shortly after the debate. And one sec. And YouTube is not live. Okay, no, what's wrong? All right, so we got Destiny up today, speaking with his friends shortly after the debate, and they have some pretty unhinged takes, to say the least. A lot of leftist cope, totally proving that they don't understand the right, the MAGA movement, no accountability for the Democrats' mistakes during the election, and let's get into it.
What the hell just happened, Dan?
I don't know. Well, I can tell you what happened. It's the fucking country has been pushing the most extremist issues that very few people gave a shit about, and it caused most Democrats to be fall out of line. The Democratic Party cared less about fucking unions and wages and the cost of your house and the cost of foods, and they cared more about fucking shit that I would expect coming out of a liberal arts college. That was it. That's the end.
How do you feel?
That's actually a pretty good take from Dan there, but you'll see they disagree with him.
About that, Stephen, given the fact that there's at least been some, you can call them insufficient overtures by the Biden administration with things like certain legislation that they're passing, with their investments in manufacturing. You have seen some metrics, but the American people weren't buying what Biden was selling. But it seemed like there was an effort on some of these issues.
I think something I said last night that I feel pretty strongly about. No, I shouldn't say I feel strongly about it. Maybe polling data will come out that changes my mind. But I think that it might just be really boring. The answer might just be in 2020, COVID was like f***ing the country up really hard. We felt really strongly about that, so we just voted in the other party, which is Biden. And then in 2024, people were still mad, cumulative year-over-year inflation. Prices go up, people get mad, they vote for the other guy. I feel like it might literally just be that, like as simple as that.
Are we underestimating Trump? I mean, every single one of these elections, 2016, 2020, 2024, they were all nail-biters. And this one is a convincing victory. I don't want to...
They're definitely underestimating Trump. 2016 definitely was a nail biter. It was close, very close. 2020, I mean, who really believes the 2020 election? Let's be honest. There were so many shenanigans in the 2020 election that, I mean, even if you eliminate any of the more conspiratorial stuff, you know, the Time magazine article, the campaign to the shadow campaign to ensure that democracy is saved or whatever it was, the Mark Zuckerberg putting $400 million into the Pennsylvania election to secure it. Even if you eliminate all that stuff, the fact that they had mass mail-in ballots, 94% of everyone voted because they made it so easy, ballot harvesting, a lot of stuff that under normal circumstances wouldn't fly, but because of the manufactured crisis of COVID, it did fly. And that's why 2020 was the way it was. And if you look at 2024, it was a blowout. Trump got the same amount of votes. Harris did not get the same as Biden because there was no mass mail-in ballots. There was no shadow campaign. Zuckerberg didn't put $400 million to secure the Pennsylvania election. And other than a couple of states, the House races, we knew the same night who won. It wasn't a surprise. So let's continue.
Overstate it, right? It's still, probably going to be the popular vote between 1 and 2 point advantage for Trump, but it's a convincing victory. And it wasn't like 2020 was like some out and out, about win for Joe Biden. Aren't we underestimating Trump? He's captured something, hasn't he? He's the different, in 2022, people were feeling worse kind of cost of living crisis than they are right now in terms of the objective measurement.
That's not really true. 2022, we had the crazy amount of unemployment still being doled out, and people still had their PPP loans and all this other crazy stuff due to the response to COVID. So people weren't feeling it. Yeah, there was high inflation, but it wasn't as bad as what it is now, where, you know, back in COVID times, you were getting $800 a week to stay home, which is more than most of these people are used to on the lower end of the economic spectrum. And now they're back to having to work their minimum wage jobs, which minimum wage has gone up, but it's still not as much as it was during COVID, and the prices have gone up even further. Inflation has gone up even further than 2022. So let them continue.
But when Trump's on the ballot, something changes.
I don't know what you're getting at. He's captured something. I mean,
There's something about
I mean,
the Trump movement, the person of Trump, that I think a lot of left-wing and Democrats have sort of underestimated, and they've.
I don't think you can underestimate it. It's just how do you combat it? I don't know what.
Well, what they're not realizing is that Trump appeals to not just, look, Republicans are going to vote Republican. Democrats, for the most part, are always going to vote Democrat. But he appeals to people across the spectrum. He's not this extreme guy that they keep on trying to paint him to be. Although this term seems like he's definitely going a lot more libertarian, which you could say is extreme. But none of his policies previous to this term were really very extreme at all. They were just kind of center-right, socially liberal policies. It wasn't anything too crazy. But these people paint him as some far-right, fascist, Nazi kind of figure, which he's not. And anyone who is tired of the mainstream media lies sees right through it. Me personally, I never voted for a Republican or Democrat previous to Trump. Trump in 2016 was the first time I ever voted for a candidate on the ballot. Previous to that, I wrote in Ron Paul every time. And Trump got me out to vote. And a lot of people felt the same because he wasn't the same old establishment hack candidate like they always put out.
What you're getting at, if you're getting at there's some secret genius like way to appeal to the common voter, because I would agree with you, but the secret is like shameless ability to lie with impunity, to never live in a fact-based world, and then to take zero accountability for any issues you cause, and to take credit for every single thing anybody.
Take zero accountability for any issues you cause. You're going to see the zero accountability factor come out later, but, you know, with their side.
He does, even if it's not you.
Is that an indictment of the electorate?
Yeah, of course. But I mean, like, the electorate is the electorate. They're who vote for you. So at the end of the day, you have to be able to appeal to them in order to win elections. So, yeah.
Oof. Well, I think there's going to be a lot of soul searching in the Democratic Party and among the elite. But shouldn't we? I mean, I for one think that there should be serious conversations about leadership. I mean, if the Democratic Party are going to pretend to be this, you know, all about democracy people and the individuals who are trying to be a bulwark against some fascists, and they're failing at their job, don't we need to see some heads roll and some people be fired? Some people.
That'd be nice. I'm sure none of that will probably happen. It'll just be more business as usual. It's like
Another good take by Dan.
it sounds stupid, but this is the party that's just allergic to putting people up for election that are even remotely electable. Like I swear they would choose. Like it feels, I don't know, just so stupid. I said this when Joe Biden said he was going to stop, and I was like, I think here's my list of people I think you should do. Okay, and Kamala was not in that list, and people are losing their shit about it. And I stand by that. I think that was the wrong decision to just fucking thrust Kamala, because I think she was not the best for it. But I mean, the do I know? Literally nothing. I don't know. I know that from what I saw from the results, fucking women didn't like Kamala quite a bit as a result of all this coming out, and that's.
Not only that, but you can't claim the other guy's a threat to democracy and then just install someone. I think they completely, I mean, Dan kind of touches on it here, but they completely dismiss that as a reason. But if you say the other guy's a threat to democracy and then you just install a candidate at the last minute because you forced your guy out, that's not a good look.
It's not good. I don't know. There's deep-seated bias in this country against a lot of shit, and Democrats just want to put their head in the sand of it and not change at all.
I think Joe Biden needs to take some of the blame himself as well.
No, I don't think so.
I think he was been an exceptional president, but
How much soul searching do you think the Republicans did after 2020?
Zero.
We didn't do any soul searching because we don't believe we lost. Not fair and square, at least. So you can say that, but Trump was still the obvious leader of the party. Everyone wanted him back. He got like 70% of the vote without even really debating or anything. So obviously he won. So we were right. He was the soul of the party. We didn't have to soul search.
Zero.
Exactly. So, no, what do you mean? It's not a soul-searching question.
But it's not a question of should we... I'm trying to just be objective about what
No, you're
happened.
not. You're trying to super hardcore both sides of it.
You really
You're
think
whipping
so?
out. Yeah, hardcore, 100%.
You don't feel angry at Joe Biden for anything?
No.
But you think there's some hubris there? The
Well, for
decision,
what?
to, the decision
What should
to
he-
run for re-election?
I mean,
What do you mean? The decision to run for re-election? How could you not?
Joe Biden ran the first term saying he wasn't going to run for a second term. He was already too old in the first term. We all saw it. He couldn't put two sentences together. And then during the debate, he could barely get through one sentence in 2024. But in the 2020 debates, he was already at the point where he could hardly get through two sentences. So these guys are just coping really, really hard.
Also, careful not to hindsight this so hard.
Well,
Because, let's say that he says, I don't want to run for re-election,
Yeah.
and then we get a different person, then they lose.
Who was
Would
the last
Pisco
one?
be sitting here saying, don't you think there's a lot of idiocy in him not even trying to run for re-election as an incumbent?
when was the last time that happened? Lyndon Johnson or something?
Yes, but he had... Let's look at the facts. Historic disapproval ratings.
Who?
Joe Biden.
Every president has had historic disapproval ratings. Did Trump ever get above like 45%? Everybody has low approval. Nobody, everything
did.
is so, he did what?
He did have approval ratings higher than that at some point.
What was Trump's highest approval rating?
It was like 45, 46.
I just said, did you ever have
Biden-
about 45? And you just said it was 45, 46. So every president is like unpopular. Like we have like a huge partisan divide right now. I don't know. I don't think Trump ever crossed.
I think Biden's lowest approval rating was something like, I want to say in the low 30s, high 20s, which is historically low. So I don't, Destiny is just off the wall. He's Democrat ride or die.
Cross the 50% threshold.
So you disagree that Biden was historically unpopular?
Historically, he might have been historically unpopular, but I think that's a result of the right being a cult. In that, if we have a Democratic president who's slightly unpopular with the Democrats, let's say that I have a president who's 90% popular. Then next year I have a president that's 80% popular with the Democrats. That 80% popular president is going to have historic disapproval because the Republicans are always going to be like sub 15. Because to them, anybody is like not acceptable. So yeah, there was historically low disapproval, but look at the Republican approval for Democratic presidents. It's unbelievably low. It's like so yeah, of course, anytime it sinks even a little bit with Democrats, but then also like again, look at what he came into. Holy fuck! How many Republicans have you debated? I don't know if you asked. I asked them. They complain about inflation. What do you think caused inflation? They don't even bring up COVID. It's like not even a thing they think about. Like they've memory hold it completely.
You're not going to hear me fighting back on that. I think Biden has done an exceptional job as president. I don't think he's getting the credit he deserves, and I think that that's a shame. I don't think he deserves any of the fault for the inflation crisis whatsoever. And I think that he has put us on the path towards a great recovery. And I do agree with your doomer prediction that Trump is probably going to take credit for a lot of the good
Absolutely,
things
yeah.
that he's done.
There's one path forward that needs to happen. It won't happen because it's not electorally popular, and it makes me sound like a sociopath. But I think that Democrats that are benefiting from Democratic policies or from Democratic successes need to start cutting off Republicans from those benefits. So if you live in a major city, there needs to be less funding going out to rural areas. If you live in a blue state, you need to fight the federal government when it comes to.
So basically, he's advocating for Republican states not benefiting from the policies that our tax dollars go to because we don't believe in those things. And if it were, hey, Republican places don't have to pay the tax dollars in order for that to happen, that would be totally fine. I would have no issue with it. I don't think any Republican would have any issue with it. We'd rather not pay taxes and not benefit from social services. However, since we are forcibly taxed for it, this solution that he's mentioning is totally just wrong. It's taxation is theft, except you're not even getting the things that you're allegedly being promised for those taxes. So no. Also, if you want to start that, how about the red areas stop shipping food into the blue areas? Because that's not a war you want to start. The cities would starve out in a matter of a week or two.
To transferring funds from state to state. Like if you're in a red area and your economic productivity is low, you should suffer for it. Or if you're in an area and you're voting against like certain types of entitlement programs, if you're voting against FEMA, then your vote should be contingent on whether or not you have access to it or not. So that when they actually make bad decisions, they suffer for it. Because right now, Republicans are throwing anchors off the back of the vote, and you've got like you've got a rowing team of Democrats on.
Also, he's trying to say that the blue states don't take as much money as the red states from the federal government, but that is not true. I looked it up. California I believe it was $142 million, billion dollars per year that they get in government subsidies. So he's just flat out wrong. No, none of the red areas. Maybe if you consider it per capita, maybe, but in total money, the blue areas are taking all of the federal funding.
Test, okay, that are like trying to pull the shit forward, and the Republicans are acting like their anchors are helping, and they can delude themselves into thinking it, because every single time, like, this conversation is so fucking cucked. We have to do some soul searching. What did Republicans do after 2020? They lied about the results of the election. They broke into the fucking Capitol, and they still don't accept the results of that election. What happened this election? They said that this election was rigged. You sat here to watch me when Trump himself tweeted out Philadelphia has crime going on. So no, the soul searching. There needs to be. This is very easy as a parent. There needs to be consequences. So if you're voting against certain things, then you should lose access to them. I think it should be as simple as that. And then I think that's the quickest way to start connecting people's minds to the results of what they're voting for, because there's too much of Democrats having to turn the other cheek while still carrying the lesser productive members of society behind us. It's insane. It's unbelievable.
Again, if we're being taxed for the things, you can't just take them away. That will start a civil war. I mean, I guess that's what he wants, but I don't think he realizes which side is the armed side.
You know, this is something I saw before. I don't think it's Louisiana, but I think it may be Alabama. Is that these states receive so much money in funding for shit like schooling, and they have like the worst, like the meme is you look at Mississippi or Alabama, and it's like last on like everything. It's like last on test scores, number one on like obesity, number one on like all sorts of fucked up shit, and last on all sorts of good shit you would want. And then they're receiving the most subsidies, and then they're also the ones that are like bitching and moaning the most.
But we here have now Pennsylvania, Michigan.
Again, they're not receiving the most subsidies. You saw it was $12 billion. California receives $142 billion. So
Michigan, Wisconsin.
Yeah, but look at this list. These are all these
states.
All of these states that are fucking dark purple, right? Like California, net neutral. Most of the top right, pink here. Like dark purple. This is a Republican state. Republican. What is this? Kentucky, Republican.
Like these,
West
no
Virginia,
offense, these motherfuckers can't read. Like what the fuck, bro?
Like, and you notice that the states that are almost like Texas, it's like half and half, so it's kind of like a little bit better. When
you say a little bit better, what do you think the money's coming from in Texas?
Oil.
Well, and Austin, Houston, Dallas. It's not coming from bump nowhere, Mr. Well, I'm gonna fight the.
Yeah, like that definitely doesn't exist in Louisiana. Like in Louisiana, what do you have? You have New Orleans and I forget the name of it though. It's not. It's the one north of it.
Dallas is a red city. Houston, I think, is a mix. Austin is a blue city, but that's a college town that doesn't produce hardly anything. Now that Joe Rogan is there, maybe they have some industries following, but they're, more of a college city than an industrious city. Dallas is the big industrious city, and Dan was right the first time. Oil and manufacturing. That's what Texas gets their money from.
Anyways, there's another one as well. But yeah, like, this is fucked.
And oil is not in the cities.
This is fucked.
So I'm hearing two things. I'm hearing frustration from Dan on the Democratic politician front, and I'm hearing frustration about the.
Sounds like we're in a focus group. That's what they do.
Well,
so Dan, it sounds like you're frustrated.
But I mean, this is our country. This is our, electorate.
I thought about it. This is gonna be really fucked up to say. I went through the Project 2025 thing last night because I didn't know. Like before, I couldn't sleep for a few hours after this, and I went home and I really went through Project.
They're gonna bring up Project 2025 now. Again, that's not Trump's plan. His plan is Project 47. Project 2025 is something that the Heritage Foundation came up with. They're a right-wing think tank. Trump has nothing to do with it. He's denounced it a billion times. And they're going to keep lying and saying that that's his plan, but it's not. Which, honestly, it's kind of unfortunate because while I didn't read the whole 900 pages of it, the stuff that I did hear about was pretty good.
2025, and I realized that really sucks for a lot of other people. None of that is going to really affect me specifically. Like I wasn't fighting for myself on a lot of this shit. If realistically speaking, Trump is way fucking better. At least he claims to be way fucking better for the Jewish people in the short term, I guess, maybe. I mean, I still have my doubts.
He is better for the Jewish people. There was no war in the Middle East when Trump was under the presidency, and he's been the biggest Israel supporting president, much to his detriment, in my opinion, and in many other people's opinion on the right. He has been the biggest proponent of Israel. So I don't understand how he can say that he's maybe in the short term, because Kamala Harris, every president would have to do anything to protect Israel. That's just the way our government works. but her voters would have such a backlash if she did that it would completely destroy the Democrat Party.
Doubts on that. I think that letting Israel go full on hinge is bad. But when you pull up Project 25, remember they have a list of this shit. Like, let's go through this Project 2025 list. Like the stuff I care about. Fuck me. Is it a 30-part list or something? 30 things, steps. You must know what I'm talking about. It's a list of the shit.
I know the PDF that they published.
Fuck, I'm not gonna be able to find it now. But basically, it's a. Actually, I just pulled up DGG. I'm sure someone has it. But basically, it was a list of all the shit, and most of it was related to abortion. Most of it was related to, I didn't like the part about putting Trump's people in power. I think that's kind of a bad idea. But a lot of it is related to abortion.
Putting Trump's people in power is a bad thing. So a president shouldn't be able to put his own people in cabinet positions, right? Every president does it. If you just put people who are against you, and that doesn't make any sense at all.
Abortion. A lot of it is related to gay people. A lot of it is related to trans shit.
Person that was just linked, it might be it.
Trump has never been against gay people. He was the first president to take office being in support of gay marriage. Again, something a lot of Republicans don't like, but that's Trump. He's not this super crazy far right guy that they try to paint him out to be.
I don't know. That thing?
Let's see.
Or he might just link the whole thing.
Yeah, I think this might be it, but this doesn't have like the nice things for each one.
I mean, gutting the FDA, gutting the Department of Education, these kinds of the changes.
I mean, I don't like those things, but as far as like specific things, it was like a bullet point list, like no more this. You fill Trump's offices with sycophants and shit like that, right? Like, I was reading this thing and it was just fucking. What? No, that's not it either. I don't know. I've been getting fucked with. No, this is it. This is what I was looking for. Okay, finally, thank you. All right, I looked at this and let's just go through it. Let's talk about how much this actually affects. Average person.
Well, wait, hold on.
Okay.
If we want to find it in the thing, we can. I never trust lists like this because I never know how much is like out of context, and I just haven't seen it.
You want to go through the main thing?
Well, I'm just saying if you wanted to, because I never try. Because when Reddit people make lists like this, it always end up being fucking crazy. It might be a good list. I just don't know. I haven't checked, and I always get hesitant to.
Fuck.
But if you want, you can pick one thing and we can look through it. But
okay. Well, how about if we say it's not the full thing and there is other stuff and it's out of context?
Sure, if you want to, yeah.
Because this is going to take a fucking while to go through.
Yeah, obviously there's like 900 pages or some shit, isn't it?
Look, here's what it says: backdoor ban on abortion. Realistically speaking, doesn't affect me. I'm not.
A lot of states are winning on their abortion protections.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't.
Were there? Did there?
There were, I think, 7-1 of 10. Florida failed, but it had majority support.
Okay.
Nebraska, I think they have the 12-week abortion ban.
So that sucks. Pack the Supreme Court with MAGA extremists. I mean, whatever.
It's going to affect you.
Huh?
If any kind of.
Okay, first of all, he already said he's not willing to sign any abortion ban. So that's stupid. Pack the Supreme Court with MAGA extremists. Again, the only two Supreme Court justices who are on the way out, as far as they are probably going to retire under this term, is Alito and Clarence Thomas, who are, in my opinion, the two good ones that we have. And he'd be lucky to find anyone half as good as Clarence Thomas. Won't happen. But at the very least, he'll have the chance to replace him. Now, with MAGA extremists, okay, whatever. It's not going to change the balance of the courts. However, I don't see why we don't do what the Democrats want. They wanted to pack the courts. We should have them pack the courts. Add 4 more justices.
Well, I don't know. Do you care about progressive legislation agenda?
No, it upsets me because I don't want this to happen. But as far as directly affecting me, none of these things directly. Like,
sure,
I think my life will
day
be
one.
No, not on year 3, day 1. I think I'll be living the exact same life as I am right now. I think this just fucks over a lot of other people. And also, I'm skeptical of some of the stuff in here. So things like ripping immigrant children away from the arms of their mother. Like, I don't. So Trump has said a million times he wants to deport all Muslims. He wants to deport all illegals.
He's never said he wants to deport all Muslims. That's fear-mongering. Trump has never said that. He wanted to institute a ban on certain countries that had been identified by the Obama administration as harboring terrorists. He didn't want to ban all Muslims. It was a list of specific nations, and he wanted to not have them come into the country so that we wouldn't get attacked again. And it was supposed to be a temporary thing until we can, as Trump said, figure out what the hell's going on here. It was not a Muslim ban like the left likes to say. If that's the case, then they need to look at Obama and ask him why he wanted to implement a Muslim ban, because these countries were all countries that were identified by Obama, and he was planning to do the same thing.
But I think that there's no chance he even remotely does it. And here's why. It's simple. Like, that's a fucking massive network effect. You deport one fucking illegal, and they had like 10 people here that they knew that were illegal. All of a sudden, you now have 10 people that are very upset with Trump that are absolutely voting against this guy or whoever this.
That's not true. The Latino vote went close to 50%. The males was slightly above 50%. Females was like 46% for Trump. So that's not going to happen. The people who came here legally, for the most part, don't want people cutting the line because they're probably trying to get their family over legally. So they don't want all these people cutting the line when they're trying to do it the right way. So no, that's not true.
Party was next year.
They're telling us they're going to do it. They have their comms people right now saying it's going to be the biggest.
I understand that, just like the wall, right?
Well, if they're illegal, they can't vote anyway, so.
Well, no, the illegal people that they get rid of, right? The network effect there is like if I deport fucking.
Oh, you think their friends are going to vote differently? How many of their friends were voting Republican anyway, though?
Apparently, fucking a lot, right? Didn't we see some of the heavily Hispanic counties like voting all Trump? How would that change if it's like fucking my friend Jose just got fucking booted out of here for nothing? He's been here for 10 years.
Well, I don't know if. Okay, I could be over-expanding or over-projecting, maybe for my own family, but I think there might be a mentality of immigrants that, like, once they get here and they've made it,
they're kicking the ladder.
There's a very big kick the ladder thing where they're like, fuck, I should have came here legally.
You don't think they're going to have, like, friends?
It's not about kicking the ladder. It's about we came legally, everyone else should have to do the same. Not, just because you're trying to claim asylum, which financial hardship is not asylum. Asylum is when you're being persecuted by your government. Then yeah, if you come for actual asylum, but why would anyone come here for asylum when they could just go to another country in the same area that speaks their language where they don't have this huge adjustment to make? It doesn't make sense for them to come here, and we shouldn't be taking them.
Friends or their moms or their something like that, that's like, I can't believe they did that. I would hope so, but maybe not. Maybe you're right.
Yeah,
maybe they literally won't care.
It'll be a massive expenditure, that's for sure.
Yeah, then I read something like $100K per extradition.
It'll be a shit ton of money to find these people, locate them,
That's okay,
and
though.
ship them out.
Republicans love spending, so.
And how's that even going to fucking benefit? Isn't it going to like fuck shit up if they do that? Like, who's going to be working on the fucking tomato fields?
Remember, you have to shift your, when you.
He just did the thing. Who's going to work the menial jobs? Like, you guys make it too easy. You guys make it way too easy. Like, they're the racists. They only view immigrants as working menial jobs that no one else wants to work. And the only reason no one wants to work them is because they pay so little. And the only reason they can pay so little is because you have illegal immigrants who are willing to do the jobs for that little bit amount of money. Because I live in South Florida, and I can tell you, they'll do 10, 12 people to a small apartment, and they'll all send their money back to their countries so that they can build homes in their countries so that they can go retire to their countries once they've made enough money. That's how they do it here.
You keep saying who's it going to benefit. People think that who's it going to benefit? It will benefit the Trump people. But you're thinking benefit in terms of like economics or whatever. These people will suffer economically to further ideologically what their goals are, I think.
On the libs.
That's not true. The people who will suffer are the people in cities buying produce and meat, who then have to pay more because those jobs had to pay more to get American workers to want to do them. That's really all it boils down to. But these people don't want to admit that. These people don't want to admit that they need cheap maids and, nannies and whatever else they use illegal migrants for.
Is that what you think the goal is?
Well, the issue, it's on the libs, but it's also, the issue is they've got themselves like in a perfect mind state right now where even if they were suffering economically, it's not because of what they're doing, it's because of, it's somehow still the fault of the Democrats. Like, for instance, so I tweeted out jokingly, that, maybe the Republicans will admit that at least there's not like a crazy deep state rigging everything because we got crushed in this election. And they all said, no, that just proves that 2020 was rigged even harder. And I'm like, oh, so if we would have won, it's definitely rigged.
Yeah.
But since we didn't win, it was definitely rigged. And it's like, there's nothing. So even if they started deporting a whole bunch of people and then costs and prices started going up, they would just find somebody else to blame. It's never, ever, ever your fault. It's never your fault.
My theory is still that this one was rigged to make it look like it wasn't as much of a clean sweep as it was. The media rigged on their end, they all tried to make Kamala look like some amazing statesman, you know, the most, what did they say? They used the same line they did for Hillary, the most qualified person to ever run, which is total bullshit. She had no qualifications to run, and they lied to everyone, tried to make it seem like she was great. She wasn't, and they still did the Trump is evil Hitler thing. I mean, look, how many times did they try to assassinate him? At least 2 that we know of, maybe 3, maybe 4, who knows? There's supposedly 5 squads out trying to get him that they know of. That's not to say the ones they don't know of. So, you know, they definitely rigged this thing. It was just too big for them to actually rig. You know, the betting markets were saying Trump was up 60%. And I think that's pretty accurate. I'd go out, I talk to people, and it used to be that people were terrified to say that they supported Trump. You couldn't get it out of them, and everyone was anti-Trump. And now you talk to people, and people will talk to you about Trump in a positive way. It definitely seemed like Trump was up 60-40. I'll tell you that. And yeah, they didn't want the Democrats to be demoralized, so they rigged what they could just to make it look a lot more close than it was. But it wasn't.
Ever.
So don't you have any like fire in your heart for the cucked Democrats for running? I mean, let's be frank. Kamala Harris, I admire who she is. I agreed with her policies, but she kind of ran a skittish campaign.
I think she sucked shit.
Because you can't do anything as a Democrat. You can't come out and take credit for anything because people will call you out of touch. You can't throw your administration under the bus because now it looks like you're what? So why didn't you do anything, or why were you in an administration that disagreed with everything? Meanwhile, Donald Trump can literally run for a second term saying make America great again, even though he was just president. Why didn't you make it great? What happened? And he can say things were horrible, but then he can.
Things were great under Trump until the Democrats took those lockdowns that were only supposed to be 2 weeks, which that's one of the things I still hammer Trump on. Because he should have never shut down the country. He should have never advocated for it. And the Democrats took what was supposed to be 2 weeks to slow the spread and ran with it for 2 years, where for 2 years, most of these places had still ridiculous rules in place, and a lot of places weren't able to stay open. So, yeah, okay, you guys ruined the economy by staying closed. So then you're going to try and take credit. They're going to try and take credit for record job growth. Well, yeah, when you close down the country and everyone loses their job, when things open up again, of course, there's going to be a huge amount of job growth. But that's not real. These people, they are out of touch. They say they're not out of touch. You're going to hear how out of touch they are when they start talking about the economy.
And also say, remember 4 years ago where you were. Like Donald Trump said, remember where you were 4 years ago. That's why you should vote for me. 4 years ago, they voted Trump out of office with more votes ever. How can you even say that? So the reality is, and this is where I'm going to spend the next year shifting people's mind towards, is you have to stop playing that game. You can't do it. You cannot have 2 people step into the arena with different rule books. That has to stop.
I was talking with my brother this morning, and I realized something of why Kamala was so shit and Trump did so well. So Kamala had this thing like a first-time home buyer's credit, and I realized what a fucking shit thing to try and get elected. Who knows they're going to be a first-time home buyer and is going to care about that? Like, if you're trying to get votes, you need to be like, how are you going to tell me you're going to lower my mortgage rates? Like, why is Kamala not out there like, you know what? In the next year, if you elect me, the mortgage rates across the country, I promise you I will do everything I can to get them down below 3%.
Yeah, but the problem is nobody cares. Nobody cares about the numbers.
I feel like those things move the needle more than pushing hey, I got a first-time home buyer.
I understand what you're saying, and I know that doesn't matter because there are more Americans paying historically lower interest rates on their mortgage at this point in time than there ever have been in all of U.S. history.
It's got to be it.
Nope, because more people refinance the average home person, the average mortgage rate now, because so many people refied during COVID and everything when his interest rates were 0%. The average homeowner mortgage rate right now is lower than it ever has been in all of U.S. history, and the average homeowner is making more wealth through accumulation of wealth than ever have been.
Others? I mean, that's just an example of something she could bullshit on, right? To say.
Well, I think when he says he fundamentally denies the framework that this is about policy.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah,
but
they can say things like that.
Yeah, she should have.
Yeah, you can bullshit, but then the problem is when the Democrats aren't bullshitting. I mean, you can just lie.
No, but why focus on a first-time home buyer credit when that's going to win you no votes at all?
I mean, why did Donald Trump?
The first-time home buyer credit wasn't going to do anything except make home sellers $25,000 richer off of the sale of their homes, because that'll get priced into the price of the sales, since now they know, hey, everyone's got $25,000 more to buy a home.
say he was going to give a deduction for interest on car insurance. Multiple Republicans brought that up.
It wasn't on car insurance. It was on car payments that Trump said he was going to do a tax deduction for any interest on car insurance for cars that are made in the United States, which promotes jobs and it promotes buying American, and it's a tax deduction, which is great for everyone who's buying a car.
That up as a good idea. What a retarded fucking idea.
People are like, oh, damn, I'm
exactly.
going to deduct my car.
But like, bro,
people are stupid. They don't know.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. So none of this matters. It doesn't matter what you say.
That got him votes, right? People are like, oh shit, nice. I can fuck. That sounds sick.
I mean, I feel like a first-time homebuyer tax credit is a big deal.
I feel like nobody knows they're going to be a first-time homebuyer. Like,
I bought my first house on an Obama first-time homebuyer tax credit when I was 19 years old. That was a big deal for me.
You didn't know you were going to buy it at that time. That's why I feel like that's like the type of thing. It's like you're putting out you're going to do something. How many people know like, oh, I'm going to vote for you because of this?
Even if they gave $25,000, the average house in America is now over $400,000. Most people cannot afford that. Even let's just pretend that they're not going to price in the $25,000, which we all know they are. That still means nothing to 99% of people because most people can't afford a $400,000 house. When Trump was in office, houses were about $200,000 on average in the country. So that $25,000 isn't going to go very far. It's not going to be enough to make people afford houses. So even if she did that, it's not going to reduce the prices enough to where people can buy.
Like, I would say the difference is like, hey, if you vote for me, I'm getting rid of all car loans. We're just going to wipe them out. It's like, are you for real? Like, that's like, even if it's bullshit, that's getting people to be like, this motherfucker's going to get rid of my car loan if I do it. But saying like, hey, if you have.
So basically just lie to the people directly and blatantly so that you can get votes. That's what they're advocating right now. Lie. Just tell them, hey, anyone who has a car loan, we're going to eliminate it. There's no way they can do that unless they just print trillions of dollars and make the inflation 10 times worse. But that's what these geniuses are advocating for.
Happen to find a quarter tomorrow, I'll give you $1. Like, who's that getting? Right? You don't know that you're going to find the quarter tomorrow. So why do you give a shit? Nobody knows they're going to be a homeowner. That's like so small.
But like, how do we defend? And I guess what Steven is saying is, who cares how we would defend it? If we were just like running the platform of get rid of all debt or get rid of all like medical debt.
Or I mean, that's really the Andrew Yang's.
They tried to do that with the student loans, which thankfully got shot down in the Supreme Court. But then Biden pushed through another round by, I guess he reworded it or something. But they constantly try to just buy people's votes. That's what the Democrat Party does.
Strategy, which I mean, even put him on the fucking map of literally just buying votes, basically. Being like, if you vote for me, I'll give you $1,000 a year, right? That
Yang was actually $1,000 a month.
That was it. If I get elected, I'll give you guys...
Democrats kind of ran on that with the child tax credit. That's a ton of free money.
But they suck at marketing. Just say that I'm going to give you $1,000 a year.
They literally did the marketing for the child tax credit. It was huge. Everybody that filed their taxes under Biden got that tax credit. It was huge.
Then their marketing fucking sucks.
It's not that their marketing sucks. Americans don't care about that. Americans don't care about the money. We're not suffering economically. Despite how much Shadow call me out of touch, despite how much everybody will complain. We're not suffering economically.
Do you remember the scene? Do you remember?
He's out of touch. We're not suffering economically. Most Americans don't have a savings account. Most Americans are living check to check, week to week. This is a rich guy and another rich guy and a guy who's a lawyer who later on will claim he's not rich, but he's a lawyer. He's making at least $100,000. That's at least you can live off of that.
Remember the scene? Did you ever see the movie Cheney?
No.
I think it was called Cheney. There's a scene in here. Okay. I think we can watch part of this. Okay.
Is this the Christian Bale?
Yeah.
I think it's called a VP or VP.
Oh, yeah.
Like did you see that girl on Jubilee that I was debating who was talking about groceries were too expensive for her 2 kids? And I was like, what about a $6,000 extra? And she said, you think $500 a month would help? Are you fucking retarded? How huge are your children that $500 a month, forget feed them completely, which it obviously would. It wouldn't even help. $500.
No, $500 a month would not feed a family with kids. Sorry. Just with me and my girlfriend and my mom, who's been staying here recently, we're going through easily $300-400 a week in groceries. So no, $500 a month when you have kids is not enough. Sorry. If you haven't been to the store, meat's up 50%, eggs are up like 100% or more. Milk is up like 50%, butter's up like 100%. even like the junk food is up a crazy amount. You know, try to eat healthy, but even junk food like bread and rice and garbage like that is up a huge amount.
A month? Another $6,000 a year wouldn't help you at all with groceries?
With 2 children?
Yeah?
This much, maybe. But if the
What
price
are your
of
children
groceries-
eating? Are you on a Texas road?
Yeah, that was a stupid insert there, because yeah, $500 a month is not enough to. It'll help offset the additional cost a little bit, but it's not enough.
House every single night. What the fuck are we talking about? Jesus.
It's called Vice.
But yeah, so like it's not. Yeah, none of it is.
No, I hear that, but it also sounds like, okay, 50 whatever percentage of the population is going to win the popular vote. Believe that there are, or at least some large percentage of America believes there's some real economic hardships.
The most powerful place.
Sorry.
I mean, isn't it the
Yeah, there are real economic hardships. We can't afford rent. We can't afford groceries. Interest is through the roof, so if you need to buy a car right now, you're screwed. Credit cards, if you need to use a credit card to get by from week to week, you're looking at 30+%. Yeah, it's hard.
the height of like of hubris to say, unless you think it's true, they're all fucking dead wrong.
Yeah, it's vibes. I'm not going to self-reflect against the party who's like, they're eating the cats and the dogs, and I'm going to tear up every single thing and make your life better as a result. No, that's fucking retarded.
I don't know.
The cats and the dogs. It's funny, the Democrats just ignore the people on the ground who were saying, hey, I've seen it. They want to just completely pretend like those people don't exist. They want to pretend like the video I saw of it looked like a cat or a dog being barbecued. They want to pretend that that doesn't exist or turn a blind eye to it. But it happened. We all saw it.
There's self-reflection to be done, but it's not on like, were your policies correct? Absolutely not there.
Yep, it's on that thing.
On anyone inheriting over $2 million. How many of you have a problem with that? Okay. How many of you would have a problem with something called a death tax? Instead of global warming, which we all agree sounds very scary, we call it climate change.
Folks, the government is taking your money.
So this shit is exactly what Republicans excel at and what Democrats are too pussy to do about, right? The death tax was a good example of this, right? It was the estate tax. It doesn't affect fucking poor, middle-class people. But because they said, hey, we're going to have a death tax now, and they called it the death tax, and the way that they framed it, they fucking pushed the narrative. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the fucking context is. And Democrats just...
Here's the thing. It does affect middle-class people. If you have a life insurance policy and you have kids and you don't know how to play with the books like the rich people do who end up getting around the quote-unquote estate tax, which is the death tax, then you're going to get taxed on it. If you leave your kids a house and you don't know how to play the books with trustee stuff, you're going to get screwed with the death tax. So no, middle class people get screwed with it. Rich people find ways around it. So this guy is just wrong. They're all wrong.
just don't give a shit about that. They're always like, listen, we're going to do a first-time home buyer credit. How about the fucking cut my car insurance half bill, but it has nothing to do with that, you know? Like, this is the shit that I feel like Democrats don't do. That's it.
They tried, it just doesn't stick.
No, they suck if they try, I feel. I mean,
Kamala tried to call the tariff thing the Trump tax whatever. It didn't stick. Nobody cares. No Republican even knows.
Trump wants to add tariffs. Yes, that forces people to buy American. That brings jobs back to America. That's how we ran until 1913 when they implemented the unconstitutional income tax. And now Trump is talking about cutting taxes on Social Security, cutting taxes on tips, making the car interest payments tax deductible. And he's even talking about, and God, if he does this, he will be the best president of all time. He's talking about cutting the income tax altogether. He's also talking about lowering business tax, corporate tax, which is good because that will make people bring their businesses back here. If you tariff stuff coming in, the people who have to pay that is the businesses. And then, yeah, that cost does get passed on to the consumer to an extent, maybe not entirely, but it does get passed on to the consumer, but it only affects people who import things to make their things, or just the drop shipper scourge on the internet of people who just go on AliExpress, buy a bunch of stuff, and drop ship it. that's who this will affect. But the tariffs, you know, most of our food comes from here. The things that are necessities mostly come from here. We do get some, I think, garlic and rice imported from Asia, but most of our food is grown here in the States. So we don't need to worry about the tariffs. Not us normal people who are just, you know, buying necessities and can barely get by anyway, especially if we're getting all kinds of income tax breaks, which is going to happen under Trump. The income tax break offset will make life more affordable than any kind of tariff will affect us negatively. But he's worried because he probably buys a lot of imported luxury items, which are going to get taxed to hell.
Sort of tariff. It's like it's nobody is in the policy world. This seems like this might have worked back in the Rush Limbaugh days, but right now we're just in a totally different world. We're in a totally
even
different
that
world.
reactive though? Like the like you're talking about like Kamala going against Trump on the tax thing. Why even be on the defensive? Why not go on the offensive and say something that Trump's never said?
Call him a racist, call him a terrorist, call him
not
a
like
fascist.
that. No, because that's
This is how the left thinks. Just lie about people, say things he didn't. You heard him. Dan just said, why don't you just say things he never said and attack him for it? And Pisco, to his credit, said what? Like call him a racist? Yeah, Trump isn't a racist, and they know it, but they'll keep saying it because that gets them clicks.
always just attacking him, talk about shit you're going to do that he can't do. I don't think Trump ever said, like, hey, I'm going to get your mortgage rates at 2, or hey, I'm going to lower the price of groceries in the next year by X, or I'm going to give everyone a state-mandated girlfriend. Kamala didn't do any of that shit, right? And she could have, and she didn't.
Imagine the outrage if Kamala would have said, I'm going to give you a state-mandated girlfriend. Could you imagine the meltdown the left would have? They'd say she went far right. This guy is crazy to think that that would be a good idea for her to say.
And it's because of all this shit. Instead, we have, hey, we're going to do a first-time homebuyer credit. Or it's a, if you happen to step in a puddle tomorrow credit. It's like, great.
Is he coping? It wouldn't have mattered? Is that what you're saying?
I don't think he's coping. I just don't think that this part of the messaging is why. This stuff can help on the edges, but I don't think it was the meat of what happened. I think people were just mad because of inflation, and they were going to blame whoever it was, and nothing mattered. This was easily the worst campaign that I've ever seen a candidate run before. Donald Trump, not Kamala Harris. His performances on like some of these rallies were insane. The amount of just like random crazy shit, like the bad appearances, the random tweet, at the very least, like as much as I hated him in 2016 and even in 2020 in the campaign season, like he was decently funny. He had some funny appearances. He had some funny quips or whatever. At least he had that. But like, man, he was old and worn down. This at least the end of this most recent election.
The guy who supported Biden and said his brain was A-okay is now trying to tell you that Trump was worn down. And I'll give it to him in the sense that, not that he's worn down, but he definitely didn't have the same 2016 energy, the fire, after he got shot. And then he kind of turned up the heat on his energy levels. But before that, yeah, he was a little bit, let's just call it sleepy. But this guy has no legs to stand on with that, because he was saying that Biden was A-okay and sharp as a tack.
Cycle, but it did not matter.
Let's pull the layer of fairness out of this, and the lever of us being frustrated out of this. Wasn't it fucking stupid to not have a clear divergence from Joe Biden, if for anything, for optics, for vibes, for everything? For Kamala, listen, I thought Joe Biden did a wonderful job. For her to be paying deference to Joe Biden all the time, for her to be campaigning with Liz Cheney and all these people, and trying to be the business as usual candidate where everyone was screaming, "We are dissatisfied." Wasn't that fucking stupid?
It would be hard enough for somebody in the Democratic Party to distance themselves from Joe Biden, the Democratic president. You thinking the vice president could have distanced herself from her?
What would Trump do if he were just
Trump can do everything. He can take credit for things and distance himself from the exact same thing at the same time. He can say simultaneously, look at how low immigration was under COVID. COVID didn't happen. That's not my fault that unemployment was so fucking high. Look at how great the median wages were under COVID. I can't help that someone.
It wasn't Trump's fault that unemployment was so high during COVID. Unemployment was high because the Democrat states didn't open up. I was here in Florida. We were booming. So he can say whatever he moved to Florida. Destiny moved to Florida because everywhere else in the blue states that he loves so much, allegedly, because he lived in California before that, but he left there to come here because we were open, because we were booming. That's why there was unemployment under Trump. That's why, because the Democrat states didn't want to open up. Even in Texas, God, I can't remember her name, but the lady with the hair salon who just became a senator now, I think, or a congresswoman. But they shut her down during COVID when she was just cutting people's hair. Everywhere in California was closed unless you're Gavin Newsom's French Laundry restaurant, and then you were allowed to stay open. So that's the reason unemployment was high. That had nothing to do with Trump. That had to do with the Democrats staying locked down.
So many people, were stuck in their homes. Look at how the Democrats.
And to be fair, some places in Florida did end up closing down permanently just because the Democrats were so terrified, at least for the first roughly 6 months or so, maybe a little longer. A lot of the tourism shut down during the tourism season down here. It just wasn't as busy as it would have been. And so some businesses didn't make it. But again, that has to do with the propaganda the liberal networks were pushing, and the Democrats just believing it and being terrified to be in public even.
Democrats failed us, in the world peace or whatever. I can't help the BLM riots in my country. Like, he can take credit for everything at all points in time. There's no way you can't. If you're playing that game, you will always lose. You can never win. You will never win. It's like when you're playing. It's like playing with a 6-year-old who's like, we're gonna make up our own superheroes, and then every time you like him, he's like, oh, actually, my superhero can't be hurt by swords. You're like, okay, well, I shoot you. Oh, actually, I can dodge bullets too.
And how is he gonna blame Trump for the BLM riots? What did Trump have to do with that? First of all, we've all probably by now seen the secondary camera videos, the extended versions, where Floyd was telling him, I can't breathe, put me on the floor. And they're going to say that, let's just say that, what's his name? Derek Chauvin. Let's just say he outright killed George Floyd because he hated him, because he was racist. Let's just pretend that was the case. So how is that Trump's fault? What does that have to do with Trump? How does that equate to Trump's fault for the riots? If Trump would have instituted the Insurrection Act, as he probably should have, the left would have called him a fascist dictator who doesn't like protests, even though the left was burning cities to the ground, causing billions of dollars in damage, 33, I believe, deaths. They would have called him a fascist for stopping the peaceful protests. So he let them, quote unquote, protest. And yeah, it was bad. He should have done the Insurrection Act, but he didn't. And he let it play out. He didn't let them take any federal buildings, as they were trying to in Seattle. That's when he got the feds involved. But outside of that, he let the local police handle it unless they asked for help.
And you're like, okay, well, I bombed you. Oh, my superhero, I actually can't be hurt by fire as well, and I can kill you psychically. And then you're like sitting here like, well, can we theory craft the best superhero? No, you can't. You can't win at this game with them.
Here's an example. I don't think this at all changed the election. I just want to be clear. I think that the Palestine-Israel stuff is overblown. But she was running scared on Israel-Palestine. She could not stake out a position that anyone believed with any clarity. Again, I'm not saying that that's the reason that she won or lost, but to me, it's emblematic. The campaign didn't have balls. It was scared.
That is interesting. I don't know why. Like, if you felt like Trump had the Muslim vote, which apparently he did at that point, why the fuck would Kamala even why be so? And like, I can't believe that's like half the Jewish vote went to Trump.
I thought it's like 80% for Kamala.
Wait, my understanding of my guess
out of New York, I saw something. I said
the vast majority of Jews, my guess would be vote for Trump. Trump was the huge pro-Israel
you guys
candidate.
are two.
I'm not sure the official numbers, but I would be willing to wager that most Jews voted for Kamala Harris. I'm in South Florida. I drive Uber. A lot of Jews in South Florida, and a lot of them don't like Kamala Harris, love Trump because of his Israel stance. So just in speaking with people that I drive around, I can tell you that. But most Jews are diehard, vote blue no matter who. So the odds of him getting a majority of Jewish people, I don't believe it. I would say the more Orthodox ones probably, but not the vast majority like these guys are saying. And yeah, Kamala was running scared because if she supports Israel, at least 25%, in my estimation, of the Democrat Party would say that the Democrats are pro-genocide. They would vote for the Green Party. The Green Party would then get 50 state ballot access instantly. They would get a seat at the debates, and the Democrats would not win for a very long time because their vote would be split amongst the Green Party and the Democrats. That would happen because all you need is it's either 5 or 10% of the popular vote, and then you get, you know, the federal funding of your election, the spot on the debates, and the 50 state ballot access.
Yeah, wait, Jews didn't vote for Trump?
I thought
Jews
Jews voted for Kamala in big numbers.
Oh, then I guess I would have expected.
Trump?
And also, just to go back to what they were saying earlier, I don't understand how Muslims ever voted Democrat. I mean, I guess because of the whole war on terror thing with Bush, but their values do not align with liberal values at all. So it's shocking to me that they would ever vote Democrat because they're basically, most Muslims are hardcore religious, and the Democrat values of homosexuality and transgenderism and all that stuff, that doesn't really fly with them. So I don't know how they ever voted Democrat, really.
Jew vote New York, right?
Maybe since Jews tend to be more educated or what, maybe they tend to go Democrat more, I guess?
Trump picked up 50% of the Jewish vote.
That's just in New York, but nationwide.
Well, I mean, that's like half the Jews in the country.
I'm just saying nationwide, there are more Jews in other parts of the country. I think that the numbers were...
Where do you want to check?
Just put exit polls Jewish.
Here, I mean, this is New York. Let's see. Exit poll. It's going to be dominated by New York.
Initial exit poll show Harris earning 79%.
Okay.
Those are awesome numbers. The Jewish vote isn't the reason she lost.
So that is a lot better than the one out of New York I saw. How could it be so high out of New York?
Because Jews are a Democratic constituency.
Yeah, they might just overlap on other values.
66 for Harris, 32 Trump.
And I just got to say, the same thing with black voters. They voted like at similar numbers to 2020.
I wonder, these things are so skewed.
That's not true. Black voters, the male black vote went a lot higher for Trump than people were expecting. Basically, what is it that they say? If black voters, if the Republicans could ever get 22% of the black vote, the Democrats would never win again. Well, Trump got, I think, 22% of the male black vote. I got to look at the numbers. When I last looked, they weren't fully in yet, but if Trump got 22% of the male black vote. The female black vote didn't go for him at all. It was like, I think 9% or something. So he didn't get the 22% number that he needed, but he got enough of them, and he got close to 50% of the total Hispanic vote. I think it was like 53-ish% of the male vote and 40-something% of the female vote. So he got pretty close to 50%, which is way overperforming. No one expected that. But again, Hispanic people are a lot more religious and conservative in their social values. So it shocks me that they ever voted for Democrats to begin with.
I feel like we're not going to be able to get a real answer on this because it's like...
Probably need to wait a few days for people to sort through a bunch of things, a couple weeks, yeah.
It's still depressing, but that's fucking Kamala's fault.
I mean, what's the identity of the Democrats besides anti-Trumpism? What's your identity besides anti-Trumpism? What's your...
I mean, if you want like another like hard truth, might be that the Democratic Party is too white tent, that we need to start excluding people. Maybe we shouldn't talk about blacks or minorities or whatever, or LGBT people. Maybe we just need to eject those people.
What's our identity? Like think about like...
The identity...
So earlier Dan did the thing where he was saying, who's going to, pick our fruits and vegetables, right? Who's going to do the menial jobs? So he did the racist thing that the Republicans always joke about, but he actually just literally did it. And now Destiny is saying, maybe we should just kick the black people and the Hispanic people out of the Democrat Party and go after the white people.
Identity of the Democratic Party is like a party that includes like a whole bunch of different people that were all trying to like raise
now
the tides
of about the Republican Party.
White people that are approving of slave owner. No, bullshit. Make the country gay.
Anti-immigration.
Yeah, yes, anti-immigration. It's an exclusionary party, right? Yeah, fuck gay people, fuck women that want abortions. But yeah, it's exclusionary.
There are some answers there. What is the Democratic Party in the sense of...
The Democratic Party is literally like a liberal arts college.
Here's the thing about abortions, whether you like them or not. This should be a state issue. until the Supreme Court rules on when life actually begins, which I really doubt it will ever. I mean, when life begins should be a federal law because it is, the government's job to protect life, but it probably won't ever. But this country is supposed to be basically a country made up of 50 unique places where, so long as you don't break the Constitution, which many of the states do, typically the blue ones with gun laws and speech laws, but if you don't break the Constitution, then you're basically like your own little country who all combine to form one federal union. It's kind of like the European Union in a lot of ways. But the Democrats want to force everyone to live the same and mandate that everyone obeys their edicts. And it doesn't work that way. So Roe v. Wade getting thrown back to the states was a good thing. If you live in a blue state or you really care that much about abortion, there's I think it's 9 states where up until the point of birth, you can get an abortion. So move to one of those states if that's that big of an issue for you. And then in that state, you'll make sure it never gets voted out because most people who are pro-abortion will move there. But they want to force everyone to have their values, and not everyone's going to have those values. Like, abortion at the point of birth is not a value to want. And not only that, but there's what was his name? Northrop from, I believe it was Virginia or North Carolina, who was saying, hey, let's say the baby survives the abortion. We'll make the baby comfortable and resuscitate him. And then we'll have a conversation with the mother and see what they want to do. So basically, an abortion after the baby is born, that's evil.
I disagree. The Democratic Party is a huge white party. It's a huge tent at the moment. Maybe too many. It's trying to kick people out of that.
Maybe I don't know. That's how it felt to me. But I'm not as keen on politics to you. That's how it feels to me. The Democratic Party.
That's what I'm hearing. Right? It sounds like
it's almost like the optics. Even if it's not the case, even if they are trying to be the most pro-union, pro all this good shit, right? At the end of the day, what people feel is that it's just like
unions aren't good. Unions are bad. In a union, basically, you can't fire someone if they're a terrible worker. So what happens in a union is the union votes for wages to be equal. So if you work harder or you're just the lazy sack of shit in the corner, then you're going to make the same amount and there's no way to advance. It disincentivizes hard work. So unions are terrible. And not only that, but they take away power from the person who owns the business. The person who's putting up the risk of their capital. And typically, in most businesses, up until the point where the company has succeeded and is running very smoothly, which can take sometimes a decade, sometimes 2 decades, the CEO of the company and the owners of the company are typically going to be working more hours than their employees because they're free labor for their company. That's how it works. So unions are terrible because if I start a company and have 5 employees and they don't like their wages, they can just hold me hostage by going on strike. Screw that.
The fucking, this is a liberal arts student making all the policy decisions. It feels that way, even if it may not be true.
It feels that way. And I just want to say I'm conflicted because I don't want to discount, because I understand that I'm in a bit of a bubble. I used to work as a bartender, but now, now I'm a lawyer. Now I'm in different circles. And I see Biden making policy moves that absolutely are pro-union, pro-labor, one of the most pro-labor presidencies.
Biden shut down the railroad strike. He went in and busted the union strike. And they're going to talk about Biden as pro-union. That's hilarious to me. And while I wouldn't say Trump is pro-union, I wouldn't say he's necessarily anti-union either. I don't think he would just go in and break up a strike necessarily. I don't think that's even a lawful thing to do. I think that's actually against the laws. You can't break a strike. I think there are certain industries like doctors and nurses that can't legally strike because their job is life and death for people. But outside of that, you know, the railroad union, Biden went in and broke up the strike. He went totally far right wing on that one.
But people aren't feeling it, and if that's happening,
Well, people don't think they're feeling it. That's important.
Oh, I can't. What you're gonna have to explain that distinction to me.
The perception, that distinction is everything. It doesn't matter what you're actually experiencing. It matters what you think you're
Oh, I
experiencing.
see what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah. What I mean is, subjectively, they're not feeling it.
They think they're not feeling it.
They think-
Their belief is that they're not feeling it.
Yeah.
That's their belief. Yes, they believe that.
So what the fuck? I mean, I'm trying to say I'm conflicted. I don't know. How could Biden have been more pro-labor? What could he have done to make people feel like he was more pro-labor? Because they were bleeding. Some working.
What are the big, the huge
people.
unemployment insurance? Is that part of the American Rescue Plan? Was that Biden or was that under Trump? The big unemployment insurance. I know the Republicans were the ones that were fighting to end it in every state.
I think there was a provision for that under the American Rescue Plan. I know that there were multiple like labor disputes where Biden was siding with the unions, to say nothing of the agencies that run a lot of the union disputes in those negotiations. What could he have done really to be more pro-labor? I'm genuinely wondering. People who are in the
I don't know if his policies were even bad. I just think his messaging around everything was bad. That's a problem. I mean, that's what I think the problem is. That's my feeling on it. He probably already had the best policies for that type of shit. He was probably already way more friendly towards union people than Trump is. Like Trump, isn't he wanting to try and get rid of overtime and like bust out unions?
No, he's not trying to get rid of overtime. He is trying to make overtime non-taxable. That's the other one I forgot earlier. So basically, if you work over, it'll incentivize companies to actually bring on people for overtime instead of bringing in more part-timers because they won't have to pay the tax on that, and neither will the employee. So let's say you make 15 or 20 bucks an hour, right? Then when you work your normal 20 bucks an hour, you're probably getting taxed about 15%, which is the normal rate. So that's $3 out of your $20, so you're making 17. Well, when you go overtime, you do time and a half and no taxes, so you're making almost double at that point. You're making 30 instead of 17. Trump doesn't want to tax that. He's not trying to get rid of overtime. In fact, it incentivizes overtime because the employer won't have to pay the income. You know, when you pay income tax, your employer pays, I think it's an equal amount of income tax on your salary. So if they don't have to pay that, well, there you go.
And shit like that. Is that true or no?
He has said things. He said that I don't want to pay overtime, but I don't know if he's wanted to implement.
Yeah. So I
laws.
feel like anyone that is a worker that did it is just they got sucked into the messaging. They lost the war of optics at the end.
So it's the info war. In that case, I think that there's a clear message from this entire thing. One of them, which is that like the mainstream media shit, legacy media, that shit is on the decline / flatlining. The alt media.
Oh, definitely it is. No one trusts the mainstream media. Most people don't watch the mainstream media. Only, older Gen X to an extent and boomers. That's why they're collapsing at the moment, because no one watches them. No one cares to watch them. And that's that. The mainstream media is collapsing because on the internet you can find the media you want to find. Me personally, I watch people from all sides. I do watch Destiny. I watch, occasionally Ben Shapiro, even though I don't agree with him on a lot of things. Like economically, yeah. But then once he gets into the foreign policy, hell no. I watch Tim Pool. I watch Revenge of the Sis. I watch Asmongold now has kind of become my left-wing guy because he's actually pretty fair. I even watch the Young Turks. I watch occasionally Crowder when he does a decent expose or has Alex Jones on. I watch Alex Jones. I watch people all over the place. I watch Tucker. I even do tune into some mainstream media just to kind of see what they're saying. But also, I'm an Uber driver. I have the luxury of sitting down and listening to stuff all day. And most people don't. And most people are only going to listen to the stuff that they agree with. But on the internet, you can find anyone who agrees with you, no matter where you are on the political spectrum. you know, if you're a far right libertarian like me, far right economically, you can just tune into Ron Paul or what's his name, Eric July or Michael Malice or Dave Smith. If you're more of a conservative, you can listen to Andrew Wilson. If you're more of a kind of center libertarian, you can listen to Tim Pool. If you're far left, you can listen to Vosh. If you know, Alex Jones left conspiracy, you can listen to the Young Turks. There's something for everyone on the internet, and you can listen to any of them. Why would anyone listen to the mainstream media that's feeding you obvious propaganda? I mean, we all know that the CIA has offices in the mainstream media's offices, so why would you listen to that? No one in the modern day is going to listen to that. So it's going to continue to collapse until it doesn't exist anymore, and the only thing will be alternative media, which will become the mainstream media, which they're making. I mean, look how much money Tucker Carlson makes now in comparison to what he did at Fox, and he was doing really well at Fox, but he's got to be making multiple times what he did there, because, I mean, he gets tens of millions of views per episode, so...
Sphere, people are getting their news there. And the Republicans and MAGA, they have a humongous edge. Joe Rogan, Tim Pool, you can even say like the pseudo legacy, I don't know, propaganda network. They have Fox News, which is kind of in cahoots with them as well. Charlie Kirk.
They all like to bash Fox News, and I bash Fox News too, because they're not really, you know, they're establishment right-wing media. I don't like Fox News, but it's like they're the one right-wing mainstream media outlet. That's why they have better ratings than any of the left-wing ones, because they're the only one. With the left-wing, every other news is left-wing, so they all have to compete with each other. But with Fox, they're the only right-wing mainstream media, so that's why their ratings are better, because they're the only ones. They don't have any competition in the mainstream media arena. But the left-wing likes to bash Fox News as if Fox News is you know, all the media is right wing, but it's not. It's all Democrat establishment except for Fox News. So what, you want to destroy Fox News and then have no right wing media on the mainstream? I mean, I don't care, because I get all my, you know, most of my news from the internet anyway, but
They have a huge edge in messaging. And Democrats, they might have infrastructure of like people in MSNBC or in CNN studios, but do they have the alt media, the internet media, the new age?
You killed the AC.
Yeah.
No,
I don't know if they're equipped to fight the info war.
I agree.
there's more left-wing channels than right-wing channels. There's David Pakman, there's Asmongold, there's Destiny, there's Vosh, there's all of BreadTube, there's, you name it. The Young Turks are the biggest online news network. So left-wing has plenty of outlets online, and bigger ones. Not all, but I mean, Young Turks is pretty damn big. But they're losing because their messaging is just bad, and the Democrat Party, people are tired of it. They're tired of inflation and taxes and all of it, all the woke, quote unquote woke stuff. Back when I was younger, woke just meant you were awake to the fact that the government is screwing you, that both sides of the government are evil and screwing you. And now they've tried to make it some racial thing and gender thing and whatever, but the left wing has tons of big alternative media people, but no one wants to hear it anymore. After the election, a lot of left-wing streamers and commentators lost a bunch of subscribers because they were blatantly lying to them, telling them Kamala's going to win. And we all know what happened. She did not. She didn't even come close.
It's I don't know, it's a little bit wild. It is what it is. So I'm glad I'm not like a pregnant chick.
Oh.
That's it. It's fucking cooked. I felt better. I don't even know if I already said this yesterday. I feel like nothing's... It sucks when Trump is president because every day it's a fucking panic. Every day it's a fucking news story and you just kind of want to chill and not think about the world exploding. But even under Trump's presidency, I'm trying to think like, I don't know if he really did anything. right? That was like the problem is if he starts doing shit and people stop getting the latest Avengers movies, or their house starts going down in value because people think a civil war is coming, or the food gets insanely expensive because of tariffs, or gas is
Okay, this is a dumb take too. We need houses to go down in value. Otherwise, most Americans will never be able to afford a house. We need the houses to come down in value. And there was a bill. I'll tell you one of the main reasons that houses are overinflated and terrible and just way overpriced. It's that there's this thing called Airbnb, and people started buying up houses and using them for Airbnbs. I live in a neighborhood where there's at least, I would say 50% of the houses are Airbnbs. And these are just mostly people and large corporations that were buying up all the houses on the market to then rent them out as short-term rentals. And then it makes the rents go up because there's fewer houses on the market. And it makes the prices of the house go up because if anything was coming on the market, BlackRock and all these other major corporations were buying them up. So there was a bill in, I don't know if it was in Congress or not, or the Senate or the House. I'm not sure exactly, but I'm sure it got killed. And it was basically saying areas zoned for single family homes could not be owned by big corporations like BlackRock. I guarantee you that will never, ever get through. But if it did, that would alleviate the housing problem. Yeah, people who own houses would be suffering for it because their house value would go down. But it's a bubble. The bubble has to pop at some point, and that's what could make the bubble pop.
On it. Like, if he does anything that upsets the status quo to a point where it actually starts fucking mattering, like, people are going to lose their shit at Trump. And
Will they, though?
Yeah, if gas starts becoming like fucking $20 a gallon.
Will they blame Trump, or will they find a way to blame the Democrats?
The gas is not going to go up to $20. Trump isn't even in office yet, and gas went from $3.20-ish in my area to $2.74, just based on the speculation that Trump is going to drill, baby, drill, reinstate fracking, reinstate drilling on public land, and the gas is not going to go up. The gas went up because Biden stopped the pipeline. Biden stopped drilling on new public lands or new sites. And he was very against fracking. And when you have that combination of things, the way the oil price works is speculators buy oil and then they make the price go up or down depending on what they think is going to happen with the supply and the demand. So that's what happened. Biden did make the price of gas go up. Presidents can't directly control the price of gas like a lot of people say, but their actions and their policies can definitely influence it a lot. And like I said, we're seeing gas just came down like 20% in since Trump got elected. So that's proof right there. The stock market jumped up 10-15%, as did crypto, because Trump got elected.
Because keep in mind, most Americans right now think that Biden was worse for U.S. energy than Trump.
I think they'll certainly try. Trump will try to spin it that way. But regardless of what happens, people are not going to be happy if America starts turning into like a fucking war zone. Everything.
How is Biden better for energy? I mean, I don't think they're going to answer it, but I would love to know.
It gets expensive.
I think there are limits.
People lose money.
I think you have a point. There are some limits here, and I'm hopeful about those limits. I saw one poll. I don't know if it's true, but I saw a poll that people are like thinking the economy is worse now. That's their perception than it was during the Great Recession.
It is. People owned houses back then and could own houses. People can't now. We weren't. We were a much more rural country back then. I mean, we were industrialized, but everyone knew people who grew food. It wasn't like it is now. So, yeah, this is a little worse because we are a service economy. And if people don't have money to travel, which, again, I am an Uber driver in a market that is entirely revolved around tourism, meaning people having expendable money to use on non-necessities. And I can tell you that for the last 2.5 years since things opened up, there was a small boom when people had all that extra unemployment money and people were able to work remote. And then it promptly died off, and it has been the slowest it has ever been. I am directly affected by how bad the economy is, and I can tell you it's bad.
Funny.
I don't know if that's true. But
Yeah, because it's all vibes, because nobody has any actual idea about what. This is why I don't, and people call me out of touch, but like, I was poor and I know poor people. People say shit about like their economic situation. They have no fucking.
You were poor. You're not poor anymore. Now you're rich. You don't even pay attention to your grocery bill, and you probably rent a penthouse somewhere in South Beach. So you don't comprehend money the way normal people do.
Idea what the fuck they're talking about. People talk about like inflation and shit like that. Like I said, I think that there are certain indicators that you can look at to see like if shit is truly fucked. So like when companies like DoorDash and Uber Eats are thriving, like I'm not going to take, I'm not taking anybody seriously on like, oh yeah,
Travel
nah, I don't
expenditures,
believe
those
it.
are all
Nah,
high.
yeah. Like you could tell into
Travel expenditures are not up. And Uber Eats and DoorDash, I don't know if that's true. I'll have to look into that. But I don't know if they're really, I mean, people are using it, but I don't know if it's as much as they're saying. It probably is in certain areas where people have more money, but outside of that, I doubt it because people can't afford it.
2007 that like people were fucked. I know because I worked at a casino, and the first thing that usually goes, I think, in big times of recession is entertainment, and that shit was felt. Your casino floor was empty, except for maybe Friday, Saturday nights, or I think Thursdays or football.
people
or
now are
like,
vacationing.
Miami used to have a vibrant nightclub and bar scene 7 days a week. It's not 7 days a week anymore. So there you go, Destiny.
They're eating a lot. They're eating out.
How would it change things? You know the whole meme of when they go low, we go high?
Yeah.
How would it just change things if we had a fucking ruthless fucking Democratic?
We need some people with balls.
Yeah.
Some people with fucking energy. Some people with like, I don't know, some charisma.
Yeah.
You know
We
what
don't have any
is-
Democrats that can talk.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Kamala Harris. I think she did, like, again, I think she's an honorable person. She has trouble.
Honorable. That's funny. I mean, Gavin Newsom's charming. He's definitely got a personality. But yeah, you're right. You don't have anyone outside of him. He's definitely personable, but he's terrible. Like, look what he did to California. He destroyed it. You know, he cleaned it up for when the Communist Chinese Party came, but that was it. Then it was back to homeless people everywhere, crime everywhere. I had a personal trainer that I gave a ride to the airport to, and he told me that if you, in Los Angeles, if you steal $900 or less, they won't try and stop you. This was a black guy telling me. He was a personal trainer. And so I asked him, so let's say I go into Best Buy, take a PlayStation 5 with a few games, I keep it under the limit, they won't stop me. And he said no. And then the next day, I can go back in and do it again, and they still won't stop me? And he said no. This is what Democrat policies have created. It's a nightmare. I worked at Michael's for a little while as a manager, and their policy is even if you directly see someone take something, and this is in Florida, they said you cannot stop them. You can't call the police. You can't accuse them of stealing. None of that, because they don't want to appear racist. That's the policy.
In those interviews, she can't talk.
Like, not like a normal person.
Yeah.
Not
Like,
like
I feel like
Trump
Mark Cuban would fucking dominate Trump. Do you think so?
I don't know.
You don't think that he has an ability to kind of...
He can connect to that.
Mark Cuban would be better than Kamala, but he would not dominate Trump at all.
Like, I think Jon Stewart. If I were to pick someone like Jon Stewart,
That guy has a Zionist.
Jewish?
He has a Zionist last name.
I don't think anybody cares about that.
No, I'm just saying. Well, Shapiro's someone on the short list, but someone who can like talk like a real person. And I don't think Trump talks like a real person.
No.
But I don't know. Someone who has at least.
Trump does talk like a real person. I mean, he has a funny accent, for sure, and a funny voice, but he talks, I mean, you've seen him in interviews and on speeches and just interacting with people. He talks like a normal guy. He doesn't try to talk, super intellectual or be, he's just a braggadocious, but in a lot of ways humble guy.
The perception that you can grab beer with him.
Yeah, that's true. It's fucked. Very doomer pilled, the whole thing.
I don't even know if I actually believe that.
No?
I don't know if people call Obama a charismatic president. I don't know if I got the same we could get a beer vibe with Obama that I
Really?
would have from compared to Bush and Clinton. I
Well,
don't
they
think
won.
so.
Well, yeah, that's true. Obama was definitely an elitist in that sense, but he was personable. Like, I hate Obama as far as his policies go, but if I had to go a chance to go grab a beer with him, I definitely would. I don't think he'd be like, a standoffish prick. I think he'd be pretty cool in that sense. Like, if it was completely non-political anyway. But, yeah, I could see he definitely had an elitist attitude and a chip on his shoulder because he was black and the first black president, and that's understandable. But, Bush and Clinton definitely could go grab a beer with. Trump, 1,000%, I would definitely go grab a beer with him. He wouldn't drink a beer because he doesn't drink, but definitely would go grab a beer with him.
What?
Well, Bush and Clinton won.
I know, but I'm saying that, like, in terms of like hang out and have a chill time, like George Bush and Bill Clinton absolutely were. Obama was like, he was a good speaker. He seemed like a funny dude, but like quite formal. Quite formal.
Let me ask you this, Steve. If you could go back 1 year from now, okay, and so we're a full year in the past right now, and Biden's like, you know what, I don't feel like doing it, I'm going to drop out. Who would you have, with that whole year of preparation, who would you have run to give the best chance to the Democrats? Because it's obviously not Kamala. So who would be the best?
I would just probably say Newsom, but I don't know. I need time to like
Jon
go through
Stewart.
a bunch of people.
Newsom would probably be pretty good as far as that goes, because he is from a state that is very blue, and as goes California, so does the rest of the country, is the saying. But after his COVID stuff, I don't think he had a chance, period. And even if they would have put him in, do you know the optics of that? Putting in a white man ahead of a woman of color, that wouldn't have worked out for the Democrats. Definitely not, because they've put so much into this whole giving value to people because of their identity, because they play identity politics. So that wouldn't have worked for Newsom. So they can say that all they want, but that's just wrong.
I don't know if Jon Stewart would do it.
The older Jon Stewart, I haven't seen him as much recently, but like the older Jon Stewart for sure, the one that interviewed Kramer, the one that went on Crossfire, that guy, yeah. But
he was pretty savage. He was smart.
So he can level with the American people. Like these old timey politicians, or in the classical style, when they give these long speeches, I don't know, it just feels, people feel that it's fake.
I think people were saying Newsom. I think my concern there is people would say that he's like out of touch with like a Texan, right? He's just some like,
yeah, and the New York real estate guy, Donald Trump, who's a billionaire.
I don't disagree that they're very different people, but like at least they think he's like fucking showing up to NASCAR. Nobody is deluding themselves with thinking Gavin Newsom is going to a NASCAR race.
I think Newsom has a lot of problems.
Yeah,
I think he has the perception of being a California Democrat, too liberal. It's about vibe too. We lost the vibe wars. We lost the info wars.
It is mostly about vibes. That's like everything. Like people are fucking stupid and they just vote on what they think is
yeah,
cool,
but it's
popular.
restating. That's kind of what I was saying earlier. It's not about how you're doing; it's how you think you're doing.
Yeah.
Here, an interesting question. I don't know if any economist has dealt with this. Not like an actual like podcast economist. I wonder if, and changing this policy would be hard. I wonder if it might be politically incorrect to target unemployment as aggressively as the Federal Reserve does, and if inflation politically would be a more appropriate target. So for instance, right now the Federal Reserve has two prime directives. It's to keep inflation probably around 2%. It's to keep unemployment probably around 5%. Mm-hmm. It's possible that even if it would have been worse for America, even if it would have been worse to have a recession, they might have actually felt better about it if prices stayed low. Maybe we would have preferred.
This is the thing, the unemployment number is, when Trump is in office, they say it's a bullshit metric. When they're in office, they say it's a good metric. It's a bullshit metric, regardless. I mean, it's a metric. It can be looked at in conjunction with other metrics, but unemployment doesn't account for people who stopped looking for a job, or people who are working part-time or working multiple part-times, and it doesn't account for a lot of things. So it's not a real good metric. It's kind of a bullshit metric, and it isn't fully reported it. If I remember correctly, it only accounts for people who are on unemployment as far as payments go. And once you don't qualify for unemployment anymore, then you're not considered unemployed by the federal government. So that number isn't real. And yeah, if inflation is what's killing us, there was one period where we had 9% inflation, and these people, they don't realize that the inflation is not it's cumulative. So okay, they're targeting 2% inflation per quarter, right? So that means they want inflation to go up 8% per year. That's insane. And the inflation is way higher than 8% per year, and that's cumulative. So if it's 8% per year, that means that in 2 years it's 2 to the 8th power. No, that's not right. But 2% plus 2%, which is compounded on the, with the 2% from the quarter before, which then gets compounded with the next 2%. So it's really more like close to 10%, really, or 9 or 10 per year, and that keeps compounding. So it's way worse. In the 70s, gas was like 5 cents. When I was first driving in the late 90s, gas was under $1. I remember at one point saying that if gas ever hit $2, I would stop driving. I was wrong. Gas went all the way up to $5 under Biden. Well, here in South Florida and other places of the country, it was like $8, like in some of the bluer states with the higher taxes. But yeah, inflation is definitely more important to tackle than jobs. Jobs are an arbitrary thing that number doesn't really correlate. What matters, if jobs are good, you have to look at, can people afford to live? Are people living check to check? Do they have savings? How many jobs out there are just part-time? These are all definitely things to monitor. Inflation is definitely more important than jobs.
10% unemployment with a 2% inflation rather than insanely low unemployment, 3.2 at its lowest, 3.3% unemployment with whatever inflation got up to. Maybe that is the case. Who knows?
What level of control will Trump have over the Federal Reserve moving forward?
Who the fuck knows? Because he was bragging before about pressuring them to keep rates low, and he was saying this time that he was going to fire people until he...
Yeah, I think the entire modus operandi of the people around him, and him included, is to have unitary control over the executive government. And he definitely has unitary control over the Republican Party, who's now going to have unitary control over the legislative branch. And absolutely, if there's some Fed policy that Donald Trump wants, is there any reason that he would stop himself?
Of course not.
The Fed actively went against Trump, and they actively tried to help Biden. There is no reason for inflation to have come down the way it did. There's way too much money in circulation for the inflation to come down the way it did. So they actively tried to help Biden to make him look better so that the Democrats could get elected again. Gary Gensler is a Democrat shill. So yeah, Trump does need to eliminate Gary Gensler, put someone in charge of the Fed that can actually do the job. And it's not about helping Trump. It's about helping the country.
Not only keep in mind, because I said that there is in my opinion, well, Trump could do some mass execution shit, but in my opinion, one of the worst things about this election has already been fulfilled. And that's what we basically said. If you really want to commit crimes, lie, and that's fine.
Well, that's beyond any debate. And I just want to, this is someone, by the way, I'll never stop saying that Donald Trump tried to steal the 2020 election, insurrection, incited the insurrection, that the fake elector scheme was a fascist scheme, that he is a fascist. That's just, in my view, the absolutely defined the definition of those terms and the application to what Trump did. But the American people did not care.
Yeah.
That is conclusive. Those investigations are dead as a doornail. Maybe we'll get some reports, maybe.
Is it just that people naturally prefer kings and queens?
Who knows? But there's a lot. It's funny, actually, on what you just said. Who knows what the American people care about? Because one of the things that Trump focused on a lot were lockdowns and BLM riots, remember?
Yeah.
Did the American people care about that? It seems like the answer would be yes, but Biden won after that, didn't he?
He did.
And it was Democrat governors that were blamed for that, right? So who knows what the fuck anybody cares about, yeah. I think people do want a benign dictator, though.
I think so. I'm at that point now, too. I don't think people want democracy. I think they want a monarchy with occasional leadership changes
And also, there are metrics that you should think of.
Byron, that's Destiny, who is a streamer, Pisco, who is a lawyer, and Dan, who is Destiny's close friend. I don't know what he does. I know he invests in real estate because I've listened to them talk on stream before. They all have money. I mean, Pisco says he's not rich at some point in this video, but he's a lawyer. He's making at least 6 figures, so he's got nothing to complain about.
Because before last night, the GDP doesn't represent all of America. The stock market doesn't represent all of America. After today, the stock market is posting all-time highs. Look what Trump's doing for the economy. Look at our GDP, one of the strongest economies in the world. Look, like all those numbers that didn't matter, that meant nothing. Now those are going to be the cornerstone of Trump's economic success.
So we're all well and doomed, but isn't there a path?
I mean, I don't think necessarily living under a king is the worst shit.
No. I think it's bad. I don't
know if it's so bad. It depends on who you are.
So Trump wins an election and now we're monarchists.
I'm just saying, hypothetically speaking, there's a lot of countries in the world where they have essentially, maybe not in name, but in practice, China, Russia, a lot of Arab countries.
Places I don't want to live.
I mean, let me tell you, if you're rich, it's not so bad in Moscow. If you're rich, it's not so bad in China. It's not so bad in Hong Kong. It's pretty fucking sick. I don't know why you're laughing.
Because I don't know if you're serious.
That is true. Wait, the shittiest countries are probably some of the best places to live in if you are rich. Kurantos was a Somalian, which is one of the poorest countries on the planet. That guy studied internationally in Malaysia for comp sci and had maids and everything in a huge house, and he was an online dude. Like, you have a nice life in those countries if you're...
Would you rather be an American middle-class guy or a Kurantos type?
It depends how rich you are. Would I rather be worth $10 million? Actually, let's do it. Would I rather be worth $10 million in Mumbai or here on $50K a year? Would you like to ask me that question?
Yeah, I'll ask you that.
I'll be 10 million in Mumbai every fucking day of the week. I will be a god out there. Unironically, you will be.
50K a year here is nothing. That's not even enough to live off of anymore. Rent in a studio apartment in South Florida, doesn't matter if you're in Dade, Broward, Palm Beach County, anywhere. Doesn't matter how far away from the city you are or not. A studio apartment, you're looking at $1,500 a month. That's $18,000 a year. If you're making $15,000 a year, you're losing about $8,000 on taxes. So that means you're making $42,000, and then you got to pay $18,000. So over half, almost half of your money is going to rent. Then inflated food costs, gas, car insurance, phone. These are all necessities in South Florida. You can't get by without a car in South Florida.
This is the country we have, though, and I would rather it not descend into a monarchy because guess what? I'm not rich, and there are a lot.
I understand that, but you are easy to sway. Everyone thinks
he's a lawyer. He's making at least 6 figures, at least $100,000 a year. He can get by. So he can say he's not rich all he wants, but to most people, he might as well be rich.
They don't understand that that's not the case, right?
Well, careful, he's not a Trump voter. Damn.
No, but I'm saying like those voters don't get that.
Yeah.
Because Democrats are trying to play by the rules and Republicans are fucking.
Well, then what's our path? I think that
there isn't.
No, I think
there isn't a path. My path, I think the only thing is pure, complete acceleration and hope. No. I already said it before. I think it's the right way. Have all of the fucking Democratic senators, all the Democratic House representatives, all the Democratic Supreme Court judges, all of them resign. Turn it into a fucking monarchy completely and have them fucking and then have it go. Fuck it. Accelerate to a maximum speed.
He's Blue MAGA with Josiah. I'm Blue MAGA too.
This is
We're all
MAGA.
Blue
It's
MAGA.
not MAGA. It's let
You're the lone one here.
them,
Fuck you,
fucking catch the car and let America burn for a little bit until people demand something else. That's the only way. There may need to be, like, I don't know what to say. It's not possible to fix it how it is. They have too many judges. They have now too many people that are going to be loyal to Trump forever. They're going to be
too many judges, but yet the Democrat Party was talking about stacking the courts because they didn't like the outcome of the election. They want to say that Trump is a sore loser because he didn't believe that the last election was fair, which most of the country, I would say at least the 50-something% that voted for him, don't believe. But yet they wanted to stack the, they call Trump a fascist because he didn't agree with the election results, which they've questioned election results before. Al Gore had a case go to the Supreme Court. Hillary Clinton did opposition research, which became the Russia hoax, which basically hamstrung Trump's whole first term. But then they want to say that Trump is the bad guy. This is crazy.
In charge of the people that are counting the votes. That's it. That is done. So the only thing you can do is completely resign and protest and show the whole thing is bullshit to the point that they can't do anything at all. That's it. You might as well just do that completely.
I think this is a very emotional conversation. This is not to downplay what you just said.
To be clear.
Yeah.
Because we like saying to be clear.
I love saying to be clear.
My life is fucking awesome. Under Trump, it'll be better than it would be under Kamala.
But I feel like there's a, I don't know, like, I'm super sad.
I'm the rich guy in Mumbai. I feel bad for you.
Yeah, but
my
like,
shit's about to be fucking insane.
You don't seem happy. I'm not happy.
Because I care about other people.
Yeah.
They don't care about other people. If they did, they wouldn't be for all these illegals coming into the country and driving down the wages.
And so, ipso facto, things can get worse. And if we just give up, they will get worse for people. And I think that if we have any hope of turning things around, I mean, right now, for example, there's genuine fights to have a 48 Senate. The difference between a 48 versus a 46 Senate is huge for the next election cycle. If we care about the people that, you care enough about to be upset about the election result right now, I think that when you say, I'll be fine, it's a bit of a code because you're not fine. And I'm not fine because this election result isn't what we wanted and we're scared. And that's okay to say out loud, but I think we need to be honest with ourselves that there's an info war that we're not winning right now, and we need to have new tactics, new strategies, new armies, new maneuvers.
I don't think you have clicked into some stuff here.
Ooh.
There's been enough shit that's changed that I'm not sure it's possible to come back. Ooh. After this, in 4 years, there'll be enough people in power loyal to Trump that they're counting the votes. You don't need to control the vote. All you need to do is control the people that count the votes. That's it.
Josh Shapiro is the governor in Pennsylvania. Gretchen Whitmer is the governor in Michigan.
Sure.
Tony Evers is the governor of Wisconsin.
You realize how close it was right now, last time, that Trump didn't pull some bullshit. How barely the guardrails held.
He pulled bullshit.
Again, Shapiro will never get elected on the Democrat side because the Democrats hate Jewish people. That's just a fact. I mean, look at all the college protests where they forced Jewish people into rooms and surrounded the rooms and were threatening. Look at all the protests that were happening in New York where Jewish people were just getting attacked. There was that one video where some girl tears down a flag of a Greek restaurant, thinking it was an Israeli Zionist flag. And it's ridiculous. The left hates Jewish people. Shapiro could never win. No Jew on the left could ever win.
Bullshit.
You saw how much he stretched it.
Yeah.
And that was without his loyalists and every part of it. How do you think it's going to go when we're there again? And in 4 more years, and he's like, I either want 4 more years or you know what? I'm going to have my son and I'm going to be the VP.
The beautiful framers gave us these wonderful things called states. And somewhere in that whatever riddled brain of James Madison, he devised a system which assumed a federalist system where states have real sovereignty in this country. Mm-hmm. And we have Democrats in positions of authority in swing states. It's not over. Doomerism can only take you so far. And I think that...
You think we'll still have those people in 4 years?
Also, the United States, no offense, is not successful.
Right,
we're not successful because of I think that having our states is nice, and I think that's kind of a cool, kind of unique thing about the United States. On some ways, we have 50 different little countries that exist in this country, but more importantly, we have so much ease of transfer from one place. Our level of integration between all of our states is insane. If you want to buy something in Montana and drive over to fucking, Nebraska, or if you want to move from one state to another, or if you want to call somebody or whatever, we have an incredibly high level of integration from one place to the next. The fact that we are part, and this was to speak of the framers, speak of the Federalists, right? This was the argument, was that in order to succeed as a country, it can't be these articles of confederation, I think they called it. It has to be, we need a constitution and a federal government. And that's important. To say that fuck the federal government, we still have individual state governments. I don't think that's...
I'm not saying fuck the federal government, but I'm saying they're still in control of the elections and how they're run.
No, yeah, I understand that. I understand that.
And I don't believe that in 2 years, midterms are in 2 years. That's tomorrow, Dan. That might as well be tomorrow. All right? And I just don't want us to take this loss and be like, fuck it, give everything to Trump. What kind of reaction is that?
Dude, let me ask you this. How much power, assuming the Democrats... So here's what I know. Either the Democrats will barely squeak it out in the House, which probably doesn't seem likely at this point.
It seems unlikely.
Bear in mind, this was... they filmed this before the House was called. This was, I believe, the day after the election. So they don't know that the bad news has yet to come for them. But obviously, Trump won the House, the Republicans won the House. They won the Senate. It was a clean sweep everywhere, popular vote and all. And so, yeah.
So it's going to be, we're going to have 10 Joe Mansions, basically, moving forward, right? Yeah, every person that's in a purple state is going to be a new Joe Manchin for anything that's even remotely...
In the Senate?
No, in the House.
In the House?
Yeah.
If we eke out...
If we eke it out, right? So if Trump wants to push out, we're getting rid of we're kicking out all of the, whatever, right? Something he can't... Yeah, something he can't do with an executive action, and he needs the House. I still feel like there's not enough support from even the Republican House people to do it, because they're like, if I do this, I'm going to get...
Actually, I'm sorry, just as a quick thing.
Trump won the popular vote. If people in the House don't do what his agenda is, then they're not going to be in the House very long. Trump won the popular mandate. That means that he's the president and he has the people's popular opinion. His platform is what the people wanted. Anyhow, guys, I'm going to take a quick breather. I'll be back in about 5. All right, we're back. Let's continue on this video. It starts to get wild now.
Was the ACA, did he try to kill that with a 4-4 court? Or did he have a majority in his court when he tried to kill? Or no, I'm sorry, not the ACA, DACA.
DACA, it depends which effort. So there was an effort in, I think, 2018, someone correct me if I'm wrong, or maybe even before that, and it was split 4-4.
Okay. Did that ever survive a 5-4 Trump's court challenge, or?
It did on procedural grounds on the Administrative Procedures Act because it was done improperly. But
okay, so then that's potential. Is that 800,000? How many, do you know how many DACA kids that we've paid money to educate, that we have like as members of our economy, that aren't committing crimes?
They're all removable. They're all deportable.
Yeah, okay. By single unilateral action by Donald Trump, assuming procedurally doesn't work.
I wasn't saying, by the way, I was asking how much damage is it that.
And I disagree with him on this, but he has said that anyone who gets a college degree should be legalized and become a citizen. I disagree with it because I think that there should be limits. It shouldn't be a clear path to bring your entire family over, and it should only be people who get degrees in fields that we need. And also, we need to tax the hell out of remissions, because if they're sending money out to their home countries, then they're only here to enrich their family back home and not to really make our economy better. So that would be my caveat.
That he can do
by himself?
Yeah.
A lot.
A lot. He's the president. And the president, especially under Republicans, loves
if all we have is like, we're the minority, if the Democrats are the minority, and maybe there's a few Murkowskis or something like that in there in between, basically it doesn't matter, is what you're saying.
Basically, he's in control of the whole government.
So he can literally just do whatever he wants.
He has the courts. He has the Senate. If he really wants something, I think that they'll destroy the filibuster.
Is there any...
It's another thing. The Democrats want to destroy the filibuster. We should oblige. We should end the filibuster.
Is there any...
Wait, real quick. Do we know, is the Senate...
Senate's gone.
Like how much?
The minimum is 46. We could get up to 48. Rosen is looking good in Nevada. Casey, it's super, super close.
Okay, so at best, or at their worst, they have 52 votes in the Senate.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
But that's still two mansions to fuck shit up.
On the Republicans don't have those.
You have Murkowski and
no,
Collins.
they have 52 votes in the Senate.
So you would have Murkowski and Collins, but that's 50-50 if J.D. Vance breaking ties.
So you need a third one.
You would need a third.
Who is the most...
And that's our best case scenario, because they might have 54.
They might have 54.
So basically then... Okay, well that's...
I believe it's 53, but I could be wrong about that.
The Senate. The Senate can't do anything without the House, right? So how close is the House?
Well, no, because a lot of the agency stuff, that's only through the Senate. So things like approving crazy bonkers judges, crazy bonkers...
Are you telling me that fucking thing, that movie we all watched lied to me? I thought bills got born in the House.
He's not about bills. He's talking about, like, so let's say that Donald Trump wants to make, like, Rudy Giuliani a Supreme Court justice. He just needs the Senate to confirm that, and he has it. Stuff like that, yeah.
So at this point, let's just say that Trump fucking takes out the remaining liberal justices for whatever reason. Just, seal some six of that. Literally that.
Yeah, it's 53 in the Senate, and in the House, there's 218 confirmed, and they're still recounting, I guess, some areas, because they're desperate to try and... I mean, he's already got the majority, slim majority, but they're still, looks like, recounting certain areas.
We are hoping and praying for the Republicans to be the guardrails in the states. And that's
the only Republicans that were guardrails were bureaucrats, which is what is it Section F or is it not Section Schedule F? That's trying to get rid of that. Yeah. The only Republicans that were willing to stand against. Yeah, that is funny that you said that though.
I'm just being real with you guys that if a scenario like that were to happen, the bulwark against that would be MAGA Republicans.
No, I understand, but you're like a Jew who's like walking to the gas chambers, and you're like, I know the Hillary's doing this, but I think Goebbels going to show up and save us. Like he's on his way, I swear.
Steven, it's cold comfort. I'm not trying to be.
No, I know, I understand, yeah. But I'm saying that like any elected Republican won't do it. A bureaucrat could because they're not trying to win elections. But an elected Republican.
What power do?
That's the problem. That's why he needs to do Schedule F, because the bureaucrats just have way too much power, and they're not elected by anyone. They're just the permanent... I mean, it's the deep state in Washington. They need to be eliminated. Schedule F all those motherfuckers.
Like the person in charge of the VA, someone that's not elected but was put there. Literally, they can just be fired for political reasons?
Yeah, especially with this court. They're all in on the unitary theory. So
you can hire and fire. Well, to be clear, even without unitary theory, the president of the United States is allowed to hire and fire.
Okay, yeah. Let's move subjects here.
Yeah.
Okay, because I think we need to do this. Be realistic.
Yeah.
3 months left. What should Biden do?
Here we go, guys. This is where it gets insane. Just... trigger warning.
There's very little he can do.
It sounds like there's a lot he can do, because it sounds like there's a lot that Trump can do. So what should Biden do in 3 months? starting tomorrow.
So
He should pull the plug as hard as he can on every piece of legislation the Democrats passed.
I think, I mean, I don't know.
I don't
would
think
be
it's fair to
great.
say that Trump can be able to do whatever he wants, and then saying that Biden, well, he's fucked, he can't do anything. He's a lame duck, old fuck that's going to be dead in a few years, no matter what. Anyways,
Well, what do you want him to do?
He should
I
also
want him to
enact
do everything that
every
Trump
single
is trying-
tariff Trump said he was going to put on. Biden should put on too. Yeah.
I think he should do something besides nothing for the next 3 months. If we're so concerned with Trump literally going fucking crazy, I think that then
Here's
fucking
the
Biden does
problem.
the
So I see two kind of avenues of what you're taking. Either he can intentionally fuck up the country so that Trump has some kind of fucking thing he has to deal with, or he can do something like fucking obscene and criminal, like take people out.
No.
And
What about
that just
something to
seems bad.
stop something that Trump wants to do in the future with questionable?
He's cucked. He's a lame duck. He can't negotiate with people.
He doesn't need to. Just do it.
What I mean is, in international politics, he could try to do some shit, but like, who cares about it?
I mean, I feel like we're okay. You're like, what can he do? I'm saying he can do a lot that will then get challenged in the Supreme Court and everything in 6 months to a year down the road. But what can he just fucking do and say
that
fuck
Trump
you?
can't undo?
No, Trump can still undo it. But
there's nothing really
What can he
gonna-
set in motion?
like what?
That once
Or like
he
what's
presses
an
the button,
example?
it's
Trump can't
done?
undo.
What's a bad example?
Or like, what's
Fucking
an example?
launching a nuke at Russia. Obviously, like as an
Okay,
example.
well, then that's-
Right, no, I'm just
Yes,
I'm not
he
saying we
can't
do
undo
that. I'm not saying we do that. I'm just giving that as an example of that's something that you could do that would fuck a lot of things moving forward that cannot be undone. Right? As an example.
Yes, it is. You have found an example that Trump can't undo that.
There are other things
You heard that, right? It gets worse.
that Biden can do, short of insane shit like that he could do today.
He could start a trade war, an actual war, to make it, make it so Trump has a heart. Like, but he's not going to do that. But also, I don't want that.
This is just straight up them saying, what can Biden do to completely sabotage Trump? That is ridiculous. Like, could you imagine if it was the other way around and Trump did stuff to sabotage Biden in his last days? There would be no end to the crying that they would do. They would call him a fascist. Like, I mean, they already do. They would call him Hitler, which they already do. I mean, can't really get too much worse. Trump should have done it, but Trump actually cares about the country and he doesn't want to see them. He doesn't want to screw over the country. But this is what the left thinks. They will, if their guy doesn't get in, they don't care about the country. They just want their guy to win at any cost.
I don't want him to like cause chaos for Trump to deal with, because I don't think that that'll be good.
Can Biden go right now and, like Trump is promising to do, where he would take everyone that's a loyalist, or sorry, that's not a loyalist, and fire them and put someone else in? Can he just go ahead right now and fire everyone? And then
Yeah, but then Trump's just gonna. You're making Trump's job easier. He'll be like, "Thanks, Biden. Now I can. Now I don't even have to worry about it. I
there
just
must
only
be
hire
something.
loyalists."
Here's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
There must be some things that once you do it, you can't get back in, and the only way to change that law is to have a supermajority.
The problem is you're assuming that like
was already in
no.
place.
The president can do things unilaterally that can be undone unilaterally, but you can't do something that
Easy
requires
come,
like all the
easy
government,
go.
and then it like can
Yeah.
or it does something on its own that has to be taken back by all the government.
What I'm trying to think of is like an example, like for instance, once someone is a felon, okay, there's a law already on the books, okay. If you're a felon, that once you're a felon, you can't buy a car, okay, whatever. It doesn't matter, right? And that law's been on the books forever, and the only way to get that law off the books is with a supermajority.
Yeah, well, but you had to pass the law first, right?
No, I'm saying if there's laws in place right now.
But then he wouldn't be doing anything. It would just be laws on the books right now. No.
And then
Yeah,
he's
but
gonna do
the
your
idea is that
course.
you kick people into this type of thing already, right? So you make people felons, and by virtue of that, now they can't go and do this other thing because there's other laws in place that can't be removed.
He can pardon Hunter Biden.
He should pardon Hunter
How
Biden.
about
He
that?
absolutely should.
What about
he should.
Like as a meme, what about if he literally just fucking pardoned every federal criminal?
He could do that. That'd be unreviewable.
That would be done. You can't stop that.
Correct.
That would.
Why the fuck would he get every?
This is what they're saying. Unleash all the criminals, the federal criminals, back onto the street just to cause chaos. This is how they think.
federal criminal out of jail.
It's a type of thing just to fucking.
It is a type of thing. Yes.
It is a type of thing. Or why doesn't he pardon every single person that's committed a drug crime immediately?
That'd be pretty. You want drug dealers? To
Didn't he do
come
that
out
with marijuana?
No, not entirely. But maybe.
Are you sure?
Kamala,
He's.
I think there was something.
I think the thing is,
There's
just as a quick
simple possession.
Yeah, just as a quick thing. I don't remember the numbers offhand, but in the U.S. population, federal prisons account for like I think it's
It's
less
a
than
small
10%
amount,
of all prisoners. It's mainly state prisons.
This is just the type of stuff I'm thinking about. What is possible for this fucker to do in the last 3 months that maybe will be challenged, not by that can't be undone by an action, right? It's something you do it, and people are like, you can't do that, you can't do that, you can't press that button. And once you press the button, people can argue about it. And 6 months to a year later, after court, they're like, yeah, you shouldn't have pressed that button.
Yeah.
But what can he just say? Fuck you, challenge me in court, and press that button today, and make it so that maybe Trump can't accomplish all of his goals.
I would have said Obama should have just installed Merrick Garland as a Supreme Court justice at the end of his term, and said because Congress has waived its obligation under Article 1 or Article 2, I don't know, to give advice and consent.
Actually, this is a good thing.
But I mean, that's one example I can think of, but whatever.
Hold on.
Yeah, that's honestly that's one thing that the Republicans kind of. I mean, thank God they did, but it was kind of shady when they didn't confirm Garland. But thank God they did, because Garland is terrible.
That's
What does it take to appoint? What is the law of appointing a Supreme Court judge?
You need to have a vacancy, a place for them to sit.
What does it actually say? Because it's been increased multiple times in the past, not for a long time, but they've increased, like as far as packing.
You need a statute.
Okay, so basically the president unilaterally can increase the amount?
No.
He needs what?
Congress to pass an act of law.
Okay.
They never do that.
So he can't.
They don't even have the Democratic votes in the Senate to do that.
I don't know. I feel like
you need to break the filibuster to do that as well.
I feel like he would have to do something now that will be challenged and take time to challenge, and it'll have to go to the Supreme Court. But something that
Biden,
done
love him, mean it. And Biden, I think that you've done the best job of president in my lifetime. His time is cooked.
That is ridiculous. How can anyone say that Biden has done the best job as president of anyone's lifetime? That guy has been a complete failure in every respect of the word. He did one thing that was I don't agree with because I don't like federal money going to anything, but at least the CHIPS Act brings some chip manufacturing here. That's about the best thing you could say he did. But again, I don't agree with federal money going to anything. So I wouldn't call it good, but it's at least not terrible.
This is cooked. He's a lame duck. He's got no power anymore to do long-lasting things.
That's not true.
It's a divided government.
I mean, it's a shitty example, but he could launch like a nuke at Russia, solidifying our countries being at war. I'm not saying to do that.
Yeah.
I'm giving an
Yeah, let's just launch a nuke at Russia because fuck Trump. That's what these guys are advocating. Or, well, Dan does, at least. But that's the most ridiculous statement. And they're going to keep pressing this. Watch.
example. You're saying there's nothing he can do. There are more things like that that he can do that can't.
Give a more mid example. That's not like nuking somebody.
Sorry. I don't mean to laugh.
Okay,
I understand,
I'll give
I
you
understand
an
the frustration.
example.
I do.
He could tell China we're no longer protecting Taiwan. It's all yours. He could
Just give over Taiwan and 90% of the complex chip manufacturing of the world so that we can become a slave nation to China. Basically, what would happen? The whole world would be at China's mercy if that happened. But these guys are okay with that as long as, you know, Republican screwed. That's all they care about.
He could end
anything relating to foreign stuff. The problem with negotiating with democracies is if you know that the person is on the way out, the other countries just won't take anything you say seriously.
Yep.
Couldn't he literally just destroy our military if he wanted to?
No.
No? He couldn't say, I hereby
Destroy our military so we can get invaded? I mean, what are these guys on about?
command the
They
military.
didn't impeach and remove him for that.
I'm pretty sure
If
the
he'd
president...
be like,
One, he would get impeached. Two, a lot of the stuff that goes to the military is like congressionally approved.
Can the
Quickly.
president... What
If he says, I'm tearing down the military or something, I'm mentioning that, or it's understood,
What about if he's like, I want all these battle cruisers at this position tomorrow?
and
I
just
don't
do
even
the
think
funniest
I don't
thing
think
in
they
the
would do
world?
it. I don't know if they would follow through on it. But his,
Again,
You
this
have
is
so
all
many leaks.
hypotheticals. I'm not suggesting this shit. But I'm just saying, you think that the supreme commander of the armed forces
Commander Chief, yeah.
cannot say, I want all of my carriers, all of my ships at this in this port tomorrow.
He could.
he
It
can
would
say
be
it,
an
but like
absolute
didn't
fucking shit show.
Well, I don't even know if they would do it. They'd probably say, "Sorry, bro, you're crazy." Because didn't Trump?
He could do that, and then Russia would launch one nuke into that area and destroy our entire fleet and our entire navy and Air Force too. I think because they ride, and the Marines because they all ride on their ships. Well, these people are willing to sacrifice everything just to get the last laugh on Trump before he gets in. This is insane. This is, I mean, thank God they have no real power. They do have influence. Destiny does at least. But thank God they have no real power in this country, because if they did, my God, we would be doomed.
Trump tried to do this with Afghanistan on his way out. Didn't Trump say, "I want to withdraw every single soldier
Syria?
out"? Was it Syria? I thought it was.
Trump laid out plans to get out of Afghanistan, and then Biden failed on those plans from lack of being prepared and being, you know, even aware to be involved of what was happening.
It was Afghanistan. He was like, "I just want to pull everybody out." And I think was it Mark Milley? Somebody was like, "Bro, we're not doing that." That's wild.
Yeah, it might have been.
Oh,
yeah.
here's a good example. Great, this is a perfect one. Thank you to the person in chat. What about if Biden says, I'm hereby, by my executive decree, giving Ukraine 10 nuclear weapons? That's a perfect example. Thank you, Chatter. That's a great example of something you...
So let's just give Ukraine nuclear weapons, because, yeah, that wouldn't cause a big major issue globally. That would be perfectly okay. Yeah, I'm sure Russia wouldn't then proceed to nuke us and the rest of the West.
You can do that cannot be undone.
Can the president unilaterally sell military stuff? I don't think we can do that. I don't think the president even has that power.
We would be
friendly?
condemned across
I don't think so.
the world for doing that.
Why?
In violation of the non-proliferation. I mean,
Who cares?
America. Who cares? I care.
I don't care. Does
I
Trump
think
care
that would
about
not
this
be
shit?
good.
People don't care. Yeah, wouldn't be good. Why not do that?
I don't think that's probably
Because it's throwing a tantrum. What you're
well, that's not
describing-
even fuck the
that's-
tantrum. That's like leading to the destruction of the entire world.
No, it's not.
Starting to hand out nuclear weapons to
Just
people
whoever-
is that
it's
would
like
be
Toys R Us? Nukes are us.
that would be bad.
I'm giving you an example. Okay, fine. Not a nuke. Something is insanely powerful. Like, hey, we're going to give you 10,000 fucking, I don't know, Trident ICBMs. They'll be there tomorrow. We're selling to you for $1.
I don't know what level of reasonableness you're asking. If Biden were to make an order like that, nobody would follow through on it. Nobody.
This is crazy. I mean, let's just give Ukraine more weapons to really actually launch a real, actual threatening attack on Russia so that we can start World War III because Orange Man bad.
Nobody in the military
I
would follow through on
disagree.
it. Okay.
First off, you have to follow
You
through.
don't have to. Nobody's forcing you. Unless Biden's going to show up with a gun and hold it to your head. They don't have to do
He is
anything.
the commander of the
Doesn't
armed
matter if he can be the commander of the whatever. They're not going to do it.
He has no leverage. He has no. People understand.
He's going to get impeached.
I-
Like military commanders are going to go before
Oh,
fucking Congress. They're not going to follow him.
That takes time.
So does approving orders and shipping weapons and whatever. Unless Biden's going to go there personally with AK-47 and tell people that's not going to happen.
I think both of you guys are, and you guys know so much more than me, but I think you're both wrong. I think if he puts in an order, says, tomorrow, I want this equipment sent here. I think
Biden tried, or I'm sorry,
Formalistically,
Trump tried to
you're
make Jeffrey Clark the Attorney General on a phone call. He did. They were marking him as the Attorney General in the call logs, but it didn't happen because he had no idea what he was doing. He tried to make Sidney Powell a fucking special prosecutor because he said it on the phone to her. Like, it didn't happen. Like, you can't just, even though technically he does have the power to kind of do that, but you can't. There are people
when you
involved
say
here.
it didn't happen, though, it kind of almost did. Like when he did that shit, did he not?
I don't know what the game we're playing is. Yeah.
But I agree with you formally. I think
In practice, it's not people are
We're
going to follow
in the
through
real
on
world, and he's going to face all kinds of pushback that will nullify.
So you think that the commanders of the armed forces right now are not interested in listening to Biden?
No,
They're not.
I think that there have been multiple times in
other
world
interests.
history where from the top down, there was an understood moment where nuclear weapons were supposed to be launched at a country and multiple people involved said, we're not going to do this. And the world averted nuclear disaster as a result of that. And if there was ever a compulsion to do something militarily, it would have been at these times.
What about this then? What about if there's a million ways to go this. What about Israel has nukes? What about if Biden says to Israel, hey, I want you to give some nukes to Ukraine, and for that I'm going to send you a fuck ton of aid right now.
Israel will be like, no. Oh, in exchange for aid?
Yeah.
If you give
shit.
nukes to Ukraine?
I don't know if we can do call-ins right now.
Why?
Brian Telecon wants to call in.
Oh, yeah, tell him call in.
Supposedly. Well, I'm sorry, actually, somebody just said he's in YouTube chat, but I don't even know if we can handle it right now.
Why not?
If you have Discord, because I don't know if this is still wired for it.
It should be. Message him the account.
If
I
you
don't wanna say it.
actually, I'm sorry. I don't even know if he actually said that. Some fucking retard in my chat said
Okay.
that, so I don't actually know if he wants to.
I understand the frustration. In my opinion, Biden can't do much to.
So he was just saying, basically bribe Israel with aid, which we all know Israel loves aid, to send nukes to Ukraine. Like, these people are just unhinged, completely unhinged, and this is just wild. I don't have any words for this. I'm just completely at a loss. That's yeah, that's how I feel. Just like Alex there.
To protect the country. The country has made its decision clear. The people have made their decision clear. It's up to us to draw lessons from it and find out what we're going to do. What I know I don't want to do, even though I understand.
What do you think would happen?
Is to give everything to Trump.
Hold on.
That's what I want.
Hypothetically speaking,
Yeah.
what would happen if tomorrow Ukraine had 5 nukes?
There's a whole
I don't
question
know.
about
I'm
they have
not
to
an
have like
expert.
the
I don't
delivery system. They have to be able to maintain them. Like the nuclear shit needs to be like refreshed or whatever.
I think it's different for
everyone in
missiles
NATO
than
would
it is for like a reactor.
No, even for missiles, they require like an upkeep in order to keep them functional and tested and have delivery system. It's like a whole ass.
Everyone in the world, I think everyone in the world
would hate the United States.
Would condemn the United States.
Unilaterally, or not unilaterally, multilaterally. Every single country on the planet would condemn it. Yeah.
Well, anyways, these are the types of things I'm saying as an example of things that I believe that Biden could do.
Yeah, and it feels, and I'm not saying that because I feel the frustration. I think it's a real frustration. It feels like a tantrum. It does, and not necessarily from you.
Oh,
I'm saying
sorry.
it's,
One more, I don't even know if you could do this. There's apparently, does the president have the ability to make someone a citizen?
no. Congress has the power of naturalization.
So the president can't give someone citizenship.
Not beyond what Congress is. Well, I mean, we'd have to test it, right? I guess, but Congress has the power of naturalization.
No, the president can make citizens.
Show me where that's allowed.
All he has to do is bang your mom, have a kid. Boom! U.S. citizen, absolutely destroyed.
Destroyed.
Yikes.
Yeah, obviously declassifying powers. I just,
The Epstein folder.
sure. But I don't know if that moves the needle. I'm talking about stuff to try and prevent what we know is coming. What's coming under Trump? We
A
know
shit ton of shit.
We know that Russia is going to take you.
What's coming under Trump? A whole lot of deregulation, an end to the wars, lower taxes, a more business-friendly environment, cheaper gas, cheaper housing, cheaper groceries. I mean, that's what's coming under Trump. they want to stop that because Orange Man bad.
Ukraine, right? And we don't. The current administration does not want that to happen.
Donald Trump has promised to end the war in Ukraine on day one.
Yeah,
and
we all know how
and
that's
I think
gonna
that's not going to bode well for Ukraine, and I think that means that
Who cares? It's not our business. Ukraine has nothing to do with us. We have no reason to be there. We're not the police of the world. We aren't a nation of Ukrainians. We have no reason to go fight a war on foreign soil just because we don't like Russia or Putin's bad. That has nothing to do with us. We didn't learn our lesson throughout history about this kind of stuff.
there's going to be some settlement, some agreement whereby some large chunks of Ukraine are given over, ceded to Russia, including Crimea. And
Brian, I'm Steve on the second in chat. You can email me on that email if you want to hop in. I think the war will end soon. I think that Crimea and I think that Luhansk and Donetsk I think are going to be given to Russia because Trump is going to want to pull the plug on that conflict. And I think Russia might even give back like Zaporizhzhia and Kherson or whatever. They might even give back something as a sign of good faith. And then Trump will say that he like made peace.
What is amnesty exactly?
If Ukraine doesn't want to give up the territory that they need to give up in order to make peace, then they can keep fighting the war. They don't need our help for it. They can do it on their own. I mean, the media says that they're doing great, don't they? So screw them. I don't care. Let's get out of this war. Whether it's through a peace deal or just Ukraine just gets annihilated because they don't want to stop fighting. Either way, I don't care.
Like how, like I'm seeing people like pardon, give more citizens, all this type of shit. Like, can Biden right now do something with all the illegal immigrants if he wanted to?
The president has 3 different temporary like immigration measures that he can do to let people in like temporarily. One is called TPS, which is temporary protected status.
that can be undone.
But that's all just temporary stuff. That's not
He
citizenship.
can parole in place. He can, that's going to be cucked by the courts, and you're going to have a lot of trouble with this Supreme Court. After think about what they did undoing the student debt stuff. If you have any kind of wide systemic immigration relief by this administration, one, you're going to anger the population who just voted in one of the most hawkish immigration person. You're not tracking where the country is. That's number one. And then number two, it's going to get cut by the courts. You're going to invoke the major questions doctrine or some other doctrine to be like, or maybe even legitimate statutory interpretation to say, hey, president can't do this. I mean, Congress has made specific paths for you to get a green card, and I don't think that the president has the authority to just snap his fingers and give all these people green cards.
All right, I'm going to stop going in on this.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: you guys are like, when Trump's in place, he's going to fucking do everything unilaterally. He's going to do whatever he wants. And I'm like, so hey, what can Biden do for 3 months in your own? Nothing.
Because Trump's doing it at the start of his administration with a mandate from the American people.
Yeah.
Biden just lost the election. It's a totally different thing. Yeah. Like if you ask me what can the president do in 3 months, that answer is way different at the start of the administration versus the end. It's a way different.
I still feel like he could do stuff right now.
He did a bunch of stuff at the start of his administration.
I feel like in the next 3 months, he still has roughly half of Americans supporting him. Generals still, they might not like it, still have to listen to his orders.
They don't.
I think if you don't listen
Yeah,
to
but
an
if you go
order
too
that's
crazy,
lawful,
if you get too crazy, what he's saying is that you're going to see people.
if you go too crazy, but I don't think right now,
nukes to Ukraine?
hold on, right now the policy of the United States is that we are protecting and defending Ukraine. We are
And
giving them
Israel.
weapons.
Yeah.
Okay, it is not so far. Holy shit! Wait a second, we're giving them shit that already does a lot of damage. Okay, maybe we're not giving them a
How
fucking
does that
star
help?
bomb.
I'm not even sure Ukraine would accept them.
Okay, forget the nuclear weapons. What about giving them a fuck ton of like, I don't know, javelins or whatever the fuck it is that they would need to actually make a difference? Long-range missiles
I don't
that
think
can
the
strike
president
into
can do it unilaterally. I think you need approval from Congress for that.
to sell weapons.
Don't you?
We could just send him once they have him. Hard to undo that. But
I mean, he is the supreme commander. It's his decision.
It's the
What are the
supreme commander, but like
consequences?
I don't know who owns. Like I don't know if it's like the United States Army, like as an entity that owns something.
Biden
Congress
could,
can't, like,
Biden absolutely could do things to improve Ukraine's armaments in the time left he has. He absolutely could do that, 100%.
Yeah, and he could give them, like for instance, the example would be forget nukes because that's like too inflammatory.
He could give
a long-range
yes.
missiles that could strike directly into the center of Moscow.
Yes.
He could give them.
Yeah, because that will go over real well. Let's just give them long-range missiles that can strike Moscow. Yeah, Russia wouldn't attack us for that, for sure. Why would they?
A huge delivery of them that could basically like annihilate Moscow.
Yes, but he would risk.
What?
There are strategic reasons why he hasn't done that yet. There are geostrategic interests. At one point, I think there's a leak that they were estimating the possibility of a Russia tactical nuke was like at 50%. There are reasons why the Biden administration has maintained the policy. I know people are so frustrated with the wishy-washiness sometimes and this kind of like middle road approach by Biden, but there is a method to the madness in some accounts. And maybe for the American electorate, that didn't work.
What about giving one to Poland as an example?
Giving a
Giving
nuke
one?
to Poland.
Yeah.
giving a nuke to somebody is like that's
That's
like
a big
doomsday
no-no.
level shit. You're
The whole purpose of NATO and all these alliances is to stop nuclear proliferation. And these guys hate Trump so much that they want to continue nuclear proliferation. Like, they just don't get it. or they're just that bitter.
Giving a fuck ton of long-range missiles to Poland.
What is Poland going to do? Poland can't attack.
The idea, okay, is that Poland's probably next.
That's a different.
They're not. Russia has been very clear about what they want. So is Putin.
Poland also has like an autocratic little
It
bent
doesn't
to
matter.
them.
Poland's in NATO.
I know.
So that's a whole Article 5. I don't think Russia would even attack Poland.
Okay.
I understand. Like, it sucks. This really sucks. There's a reason why we were like fighting tooth and nail to try to convince people, but we didn't win, and our message wasn't getting through. So we need to do something other than.
You didn't win because you guys don't understand anything. You don't understand what people are feeling out there as far as the economic crisis. You guys don't even see an economic crisis because you're somehow brainwashed into thinking that there is no economic crisis because you guys are pretty well off, and that the word racism has a meaning, or Nazi or fascist. They don't have a meaning anymore. You guys cried wolf for way too long. That's done. Over and done with.
Coming up with these fun little.
So what are the executive actions that are limited by President Biden? What can't he do?
There's a lot of things he cannot do.
What can he do?
Wait, what's the next part of this conversation?
I don't know. I think that the next part of the conversation is.
What do you think?
What
You keep making it sound like there's some really obvious soul searching that the Democrats need to do to be nicer to people, or to be more cocked, or to
I think that
use like anal gapers so we can be ready to get fucked by multiple dicks at the same time. What do you think needs to happen?
One, I think that we need to. There's part of what you're saying that I totally agree with. We need to grow some balls, and that starts with the Democratic politicians, but it also starts with you. We already have balls, but I mean to say you need to expand on your level of influence that you already have.
Yeah,
the media sphere right now, the alt media sphere is dominated by right wingers.
Yeah,
and by.
It's not dominated by them. The biggest ones, I think, are the Young Turks, like I said earlier. I mean, there's several big creators on the left, and there's some big creators on the right, but I think Tucker is the biggest, but he comes from mainstream media, and he wasn't really mainstream media friendly, if you could say. But outside of that, I would say probably Steven Crowder is the next biggest, and I'm not even that big of a fan of him. I just don't think he's that great. I'm personally more into some of the smaller ones, like Dave Smith, who's also pretty big. But I mean, the left has a lot of really big creators online. It's just they push the same stupid talking points. I mean, when you even have Hassan, who is the biggest individual streamer on the left, who's a actual communist, and he is pushing for his viewers to vote Biden because vote blue no matter who, when communists would not agree with Biden at all, or Kamala, because while they do have socialistic tendencies, they're still being pushed not far enough for those people. They're unified completely. On the right, you have several disagreements on stuff like, for instance, you have pro-lifers who did not vote for Trump because they said that Trump wasn't strong enough on abortion. You have now a libertarian cohort that voted for Trump because he pushed the lowering of taxes, and he's been very pro-peace and anti-war. A lot of the neocons supposedly moved over to Biden and Harris, like the Cheneys, which is kind of scary that the left is so proud of being backed by the Cheneys, who just, 12 years ago or whatever it was, called the Cheneys war criminals, which they were correct. But these guys are just nonsense. The problem with Kamala isn't that she didn't, that there isn't enough left alt media. The problem is she didn't go on any of those shows and talk because she was terrified to. She wanted to go on Rogan. Well, she wanted Rogan to come to her, where he wouldn't have Jamie fact checking, and she wanted it to be limited to an hour, and she wanted her handlers in the room, and she wanted the interviews to be cut and edited, and none of that is going to work because they're not going to go for that. Like Rogan wasn't going to do that. She asked Theo Vaughn if his show is edited, and he said no. She didn't want to do it. Look, Trump went on for 3 hours, or was it 3 or was it 4? I don't remember. JD Vance went on for 3 hours. They killed it. And Kamala went on places where she was only going to be asked softball questions, except for that one Fox interview where she arrived late and she was only on for like 20 minutes out of what was supposed to be, I believe, an hour conversation. And he didn't even push her that hard. He didn't even hit her with anything outlandish. You know, like there's plenty to ask her about, especially like her record, like what Tulsi blew her up for with the arresting all the people with the marijuana charges, keeping them in prison longer, or not releasing them early with good behavior or whatever it was. He didn't even ask her that. He only threw her recent record in her face and made her answer for that. And she got pulled out after 20 minutes. So the left can't even talk. They don't have a candidate. Tulsi Gabbard was supposed to be their next big thing. And then she didn't support Hillary. She supported Bernie. And then they made her enemy number one. Or was Biden. She didn't support Biden. She supported Bernie. And then they made her enemy number one. And that's why she left the party. That's why I still don't trust her, because she's still got some views that have to be answered for. Like her anti-gun stance. You can't just tell me, oh, I've changed my mind on that without a reason. So, I mean, I think she's good for her anti-war stuff. I think she's going to be good in the position she was given, Department of National Intelligence, because she was targeted by national intelligence, and she's probably very against government spying on citizens. So I think she'll be good there. I'm glad that that's the position she got, and not, anything with, like Secretary of Treasury or anything like that, because that would have probably been bad. But let's let them keep talking. They don't have much longer.
Crazy MAGA cultists. This is like an effort for us to purge the cultists, or at least make it.
I do agree with them that there are MAGA cultists, for sure. I saw it myself when I was unsure of whether I was going to vote for Trump or not. But it's not as bad as the left cultists, because the left is vote blue no matter who, every one of them just about. And at least on the right, there are people who are willing to disagree and stand on principles and not vote for. It's, again, not all, but there's at least some. Whereas on the left, you don't have that at all.
Some kind of fair fight in the alt sphere. So we're getting our message out.
Yeah,
we're getting our framing out.
I agree.
And I think that's a positive thing that we can do.
Yeah.
Is to grow as an enterprise.
I agree.
Based. And then let's back some politicians. Let's carry forward some of the work that you've done already in the canvassing, but let's support base politicians, people with balls, people with some kind of.
The left doesn't have anyone with balls because they're
Beta!
they just don't have anyone with balls. They're soy boys. And they had RFK, but they screwed him over. They didn't let him on the debate stage. They didn't want to have Biden look like a fool. If they would have let him debate Biden would not have been the guy. And they kept Biden in there long enough to get him out once RFK had dropped.
Kind of personality, some kind of like identity beyond just anti-Trumpism. We need to define ourselves as more than just what we're in opposition against. That's my take. Hey.
They don't have anything other than anti-Trumpism. That's all they have. And that's the end of that video. The rest is just them telling you that go to their paid paywall to see the rest of the video. But they're insane. really wouldn't mind entirely destroying the country just to make Trump look bad. That is crazy. They don't care about the country. You know, they obviously proved that they don't understand the common man who is struggling to get by, who's check to check, you know, sometimes using credit cards probably just to get the next batch of groceries because they're too expensive, or get gas just to get to work. They don't have any kind of sympathy or empathy like they claim to. And all they want to do is destroy America because their guy isn't the one that's in. You know, if they if they think that Trump is that bad, why do they need to wreck the country before he gets in? He could just wreck the country himself, and then they can laugh at us and say, ha ha, he ruined it. But they know that's not the case. They know that Trump will actually do well for the country, and they can't handle it. So that's why they act the way they do. So anyhow, guys, it's been great, and we'll see you back hopefully sooner than the last gap. Had some audio issues last time, but we'll be back. Catch you next time. Bye.